Chapter 2051. Hearing this, the drunk young man opened his sleepy eyes and looked at the bald man. Giving up is not my style. Hearing this, the bald man in black sneered. Kid, since you're asking for death, don't blame me for it. After saying that, he sneered. With a flash of his body, he quickly charged out. In an instant, he arrived below. Then he threw out a punch. A terrifying black aura condensed into a pitch-black beast claw that grabbed forward. The claw was extremely terrifying. Black aura surrounded it and emitted a chilling power that made people tremble uncontrollably. The demonic claw. Seeing this, everyone was shocked and exclaimed. That's right, the bald man was also an extremely terrifying elite. At this moment, the black claw that he used was known as the demonic claw. It instantly tore through the void and grabbed forward. Bang! However, when that drunk young man saw this scene, he shuddered. Then his legs grew weak and he fell to the ground. From the looks of it, he was really drunk. In the next moment, everyone was stunned. Because the drunk young man had fallen, he had narrowly avoided the demonic claw. What? That's possible. The corners of the elite's mouths twitched in disbelief. The demonic claw was extremely terrifying. They were not confident that they could dodge it. But now, the other party had dodged it in such a manner. They found it hard to believe. The monk in black robe's face was also gloomy. His killing move had been dodged by a drunkard, which made him feel embarrassed. In the next moment, he roared angrily, and the black claw grabbed out again. Black aura filled the sky and completely sealed the entire space. Kid, go to hell! He roared ferociously, and the demonic claw slammed down mercilessly. Bang! However, the drunk young man rolled on the ground and dodged it again. What? He dodged it again. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. They did not expect that the other party had dodged the demonic claw twice, and in such a comical manner. Damn it, this guy's luck is too good. Everyone was discussing. However, Lin Xian frowned slightly. No, it's not luck. He could tell that the other party was definitely not lucky. The reason for that was because the demonic hand was simply too frightening. Even if someone were to fall to the ground, they would not be able to dodge it at all. The other party must have taken advantage of the devil's hand's weakness to dodge it. That's right, a flaw. Any martial art, as long as it was executed by a human, would definitely have a flaw. However, some flaws were hidden very deeply and some are very small, so ordinary people couldn't find them at all. However, it was clear that the drunk youth had found the devil's hand's weakness twice, allowing him to dodge the two killing moves. That would be interesting. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He realized that this drunk youth was not as simple as he seemed. He should also be a super expert. The others, such as the first saber, the Herculean Emperor, and the others were aware of this too. Their expressions were solemn. As for the Golden Lion King, wearing the golden battle armor, it had its eyes closed the entire time. It seemed to have fallen asleep and was not watching any of the matches. It seemed that he was very confident in himself. At the front, the black-robed monk's face was extremely ugly. He had used the devil's hand twice, but he hadn't been able to injure the other party. This made him lose face. He couldn't even get out of the situation. Therefore, he roared angrily, and a strong killing intent appeared in his eyes. It seemed that he was really angry. Boom! 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 Boundless devil's chi appeared on the black-robed monk's body, quickly enveloping the entire space. Thick black chi appeared on his hands, and demonic runes appeared on his hands. The two devils' hands were like monstrous beast claws, quickly closing together. It was as if two black mountains were pressing down from the sky. This attack truly had the power to shatter the heavens and rend the earth. Buzz! Faced with such a terrifying ultimate move, the drunk youth abruptly opened his eyes. His drunken eyes suddenly bloomed with a strange light. It was so sharp that it made people tremble. As expected, the other party wasn't drunk. In the next moment, two red flames appeared on his fists, erupting with a bright light. As the flames danced, a mysterious power flowed. Then he waved his fists and punched forward. The void shattered and heaven and earth shook. The devil's chi in the surroundings exploded in an instant. The black-robed monk was also forced back, and he looked at the other party in shock. What happened just now? How did the other party explode with such a powerful force? Damn brat, pretending to be mysterious. I'll kill you right now. As he spoke, he formed a seal with his hands. Suddenly, a black spear appeared in his hands. It was extremely black, like the spear of the devil from hell. Buzz! The spear waved, bringing with it a biting cold aura, and it quickly tore the void apart. The black light that filled the sky converged into a black dragon, roaring in front of him. He, however, the drunk young man, merely chuckled. At this time he didn't dodge. Instead, he opened the wine gourd in his hand again and drank a mouthful of wine. Seeing this scene, everyone was speechless. You still have time to drink at a time like this? Many people sneered, thinking that this time the other party was really dead, because the terrifying aura emitted by the devil's spear made them tremble. One could imagine how terrifying this attack was. Even a mighty figure wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, in the face of such a terrifying attack, the drunk youth took a step forward, and then suddenly spat out the wine in his mouth. Poof! The wine spilled out, but as if it had been ignited, it turned into a monstrous fire, rolling in the sky. In an instant, a boundless sea of fire spread in the sky, forming a tsunami that rushed forward. Everywhere it passed, the void was mercilessly burned. The scorching aura seemed to be able to burn the 9 heavens. What a terrifying flame! When the surrounding martial artists saw this scene, their scalps went numb. They didn't expect the drunk youth to be able to launch such a powerful attack. It was unbelievable. Sizzle! In an instant, the surrounding devil's chi was quickly burned. The sky became clear again, and the black torrent formed by the devil's spear was also attacked and melted. The flame was too terrifying. It was like a divine flame that could burn everything. The black-robed monk's face changed. The devil's chi on his body belonged to the dark type. Now that it met the monstrous sea of fire, it was naturally suppressed. Sure enough, in the next moment, the devil's spear in his hand shattered, turning into countless black gas, and was then burned clean. Boom! The monk's face changed drastically, and he quickly retreated, drawing a black arc in the sky. However, he couldn't escape at all. In all directions, there was a sea of fire that intertwined to form a cage, firmly locking him in. Chapter 2052. Boom! He was hit by the sea of fire and was sent flying while vomiting blood. The dark monk had lost. The crowd was shocked and could not believe their eyes. The dark monk was extremely terrifying and was listed as a powerful enemy. However, he had lost to an unknown drunk young man. Everyone could not believe it. The first prince's face was gloomy and his eyes were filled with coldness. He snorted coldly. What a piece of trash! How dare you embarrass me? The dark monk's defeat surprised the crowd. They did not expect the drunk young man to be so powerful. The 14th prince smiled in satisfaction because he knew the strength of the drunk young man. The drunk young man did not usually show his strength, but his true strength was extremely terrifying. As expected, the moment the drunk young man attacked, he displayed a powerful combat strength. The drunk young man appeared in front of the crowd for the first time in this battle. Every peerless genius frowned and was secretly on guard. The competition continued and the various geniuses attacked again. The battle was unusually intense. Among them, there were peerless geniuses and there were also dark horses. In short, there were winners and losers among the princes. However, overall, the first prince, the third prince, and the 8th prince were in the lead. Following closely behind them were the 4th prince, the 15th prince, the 9th prince, and the 14th prince. Of course, the princes who were lagging behind looked gloomy. However, they were still able to keep their composure. That was because the battle had just begun and everyone had a chance to attack again. Therefore, they could afford to wait. Soon the rounds were over. Those who had finished their battle quickly sat down cross-legged and quickly swallowed pills and treasures to recover their inner strength and heal their injuries. That was because no one knew when they would have to fight in such a battle. Therefore, they had to maintain their peak condition at all times to achieve good results. Soon the battle drums sounded. At that moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes again and stood up. Is this guy attacking again? The crowd became nervous when they saw Lin Xian's actions. Previously, they had witnessed Lin Xian defeating a strong opponent with one move. Everyone had listed Lin Xian as an extremely dangerous person. Now that they saw him fighting, they became nervous again. That was because they did not know who Lin Xian's opponent would be. If it was him, would he be able to withstand it? Lin Xian took a step forward. His figure was like a sword light as he arrived on the battlefield. Then he scanned the surroundings. Feeling Lin Xian's sharp gaze, many people trembled and felt their scalps go numb. Some even didn't dare to look straight at him. Powerful kings like the First Blade and the Fist Tyrant snorted coldly as their eyes shone with a fierce light. For a time, it could be said that the atmosphere was extremely tense. Humph! This was especially true for the first slash. His expression was solemn, and his gaze was like a sharp heavenly blade that sliced through the void. A terrifying saber intent gushed out of his body. That was because he was known as the #1 swordsman, while his opponent was known as the #1 swordsman. Both of them were in first place, but it was unknown whose sword was stronger and whose saber was stronger. Therefore, when Saber saw Lin Xian for the first time, his gaze was extremely cold. He even wanted to make a move to determine the victor between them. Clang! Clang! Their gazes collided in the air, creating dazzling sparks. Even the void was cut open, forming cracks. Everyone held their breaths, thinking that there was going to be an earth-shattering battle between the two of them. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian shifted his gaze. What was going on? He didn't challenge the first slash? Could it be that the two of them didn't fight? Everyone was confused. According to the previous scene, it shouldn't have been like this. They were extremely confused and continued to watch. Lin Xian had indeed shifted his target. His opponent this time was not the first slash. It was someone else, someone that he had wanted to kill for a long time. In the next moment, Lin Xian shifted his gaze away from the first slash. However, he didn't move his gaze away. He was still on the platform where the third prince was. He looked at the other person. It was a young man in a sword robe. He had a flamboyant face and carried a large black sword on his back. His entire body was emitting a sharp aura. Didn't you want to fight me? I'm here now. Make your move, Lin Xian said coldly as he looked at the young man in the sword robe. Kid, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The young man in the sword robe sneered and slowly stood up. All the surrounding prodigies and princes also looked over. In the next moment, they exclaimed, that person was from the sacred land of day. Is the sacred land of day also in the hands of the third prince? What a freak. I recognize him. He's Tan Yifei, the outstanding genius of the sacred land of day. All right, during the sword duel on Mount Hua, he confronted Lin Xian, but they were interrupted in the end and didn't fight. They didn't expect that the battle would continue until today. With this reminder, everyone recalled what had happened. Indeed, during the sword duel on Mount Hua, Tan Yifei wanted to challenge Lin Xian, but was stopped by General Li Hua. Now, Lin Xian was going to fight again, and the first person he challenged was Tan Yifei. Kid, I have to say, how dare you challenge me? You're courting death. If that's the case, I'll let everyone know who the real #1 swordsman is. Tan Yifei revealed a cold smile. The title of the #1 swordsman was too tempting. It was something that every swordsman wanted. Naturally, he was no exception. As long as he could defeat the kid in front of him, he would be able to marry the title. At that time, he could make himself and the sacred land of Day famous in the entire Tai dynasty. Buzz. In the next moment, he took a step forward, tore through the void, and flew forward. Seeing this scene, the surrounding martial artists were shocked, and the third prince narrowed his eyes. He also knew Tan Yifei's strength. He was not weaker than Bai Zijing. Therefore, it was really hard to say who would be the final victor between the two sides. However, he had confidence in Tan Yifei. After all, the sacred land of Day was a very terrifying sacred land, and the Day sword technique was even more terrifying. The eighth prince also took a deep breath and observed with rapt attention. It could be said that this battle had affected everyone's hearts. Kid, choosing me as your opponent is the biggest mistake you've made in your life. In the front, Tan Yifei came to the battlefield, looked at Lin Xian and sneered. Lin Xian also snorted coldly. So much nonsense. Let's fight. I'll let you know how big the gap is between you and the number 1 swordsman. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Hearing his opponent's provocative words, Tan Yifei's face turned gloomy. In the next moment, he snorted coldly, and a powerful force surged out of his body, turning into a shocking sword light. It pierced through heaven and earth. Suddenly, countless sword chi appeared in all directions, forming a dazzling light sword. Chapter 2053. Suddenly, countless sword chi appeared in all directions, forming many shining light swords. Boom! 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 The space exploded in an instant, and a powerful aura instantly filled the entire void. The expressions of those who were watching the battle from afar changed. So powerful, as expected of a genius from the Dayan's sacred land. That sword was too terrifying, the young experts exclaimed. An ordinary-looking young man beside the fourth prince had a solemn look in his eyes. There was a cold light in his eyes. He was Jian Shi-san, a terrifying swordsman. When he felt the sword chi from Tan Yifei, his expression was extremely solemn. As expected of someone from the Dayan's sacred land, he was indeed powerful. First Blade also had a solemn look on his face. However, he did not know who was more powerful between the two of them. To be honest, he was not confident about the outcome of the battle. Given the current situation, they could only wait quietly. On the first prince's side, the golden-looking young man also opened his eyes. Then, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Interesting, he said calmly. At that moment, Tan Yifei also made his move. He snorted coldly and waved his hand. A sharp sword chi was released from his palm. The sword chi was pitch black and incomparably heavy. It was like a mountain, emitting a terrifying pressure. In an instant, it descended from the sky and charged toward Lin Xian. That was the overmount sword technique, an advanced Earth-class martial art. It was a terrifying sword technique. When it was unleashed, each ray of sword chi was like an ancient mountain range, abnormally thick and heavy. Not to mention an ordinary king. Even an almighty would be suppressed in an instant. It was extremely terrifying. No one expected Tan Yifei to use such a terrifying sword technique as soon as he appeared. Boom! However, an extremely terrifying flame energy surged out from Lin Xian's body. In an instant, the terrifying flame light shot into the sky. Then, Lin Xian threw a punch. In an instant, it shattered the incomparably dark sword chi that was like a mountain. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Although everyone knew that Lin Xian was powerful, they did not expect him to be so violent and domineering. He shattered such a terrifying sword technique with a single punch. Even an ordinary almighty would not be able to do that. Humph! Seeing this, Tan Yifei coldly harumphed and attacked again. With a clanging sound, the huge black sword on his back was pulled out. Holding it in his hand, it turned into a black city. Carrying an extremely terrifying pressure, it quickly pressed down. Clang! The void exploded in an instant. At this moment, The sky and the ground were filled with terrifying black sword chi. That sharp aura was hard to believe. What a terrifying sword! This should also be a top-grade artifact. The geniuses in the distance were startled seeing this. This was because they could clearly sense how terrifying the sword was. Apart from the sword technique, the black greatsword should also be a terrifying weapon of mass destruction. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to emit such an aura. In the blink of an eye, the sky seemed to have lost its luster, leaving only the black sword. It slashed down quickly, like a black thunderbolt, wanting to destroy everything. However, what was even more shocking was Lin Xian's performance. However, in the face of such a terrifying sword chi, he actually didn't have any intention of dodging. There was no trace of nervousness on his handsome face. Vulcan's roar! In the next moment, he directly attacked. A terrifying hell flame gushed out from his body and quickly bloomed, forming a black giant. Then the giant threw out a punch. Boom! 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 The violent black giant threw out a terrifying punch, bringing with it a sky full of black flames and terrifying power. In the blink of an eye, it exploded the void and fiercely hit the black greatsword. In the next moment, there was a terrifying explosion in the sky. The entire void was smashed into nothingness, and cracks filled the sky. In the distance, the crowd gasped. This was because they had just exchanged blows, and both sides had already displayed such a powerful super skill. It was truly shocking. Beside the 14th prince, the drunk youth squinted his eyes, and there was a golden light flickering in his eyes. What a terrifying flame power! What kind of flame was that? He was extremely surprised. This was because he was also a fire-type king, and he had a powerful flame in his hands. However, at this moment, the black flames on Lin Xian's body also posed a great threat to him, and he had to be serious. In the sky, the black great sword was blocked, and it could not descend at all. Tan Yifei also frowned. He did not expect Lin Xian to be able to block his killer move. It was truly a surprise. Lin Xian said indifferently, "You want to fight for the first sword with just this little bit of strength? You're too naive. You're courting death." Hearing this, Tan Yifei was enraged. In the next moment, he roared again, and the sharp sword chi on his body exploded again. Edgeless greatsword. It was another killer move, and countless black cracks appeared in the sky. The entire space trembled rapidly. It was obvious that Tan Yifei had used another terrifying sword Dao killer move. Humph! Lin Xian also snorted coldly, and he put his palms together. Suddenly, the black giant on his body also changed rapidly. Then a pitch-black, 100-foot-long black flame, great sword appeared in the void, held by the giant. Then it slashed forward. Whoosh! Everywhere it passed, the void was mercilessly torn apart. Then it collided with the black, dragon-like greatsword. The sky collapsed again, and everything within a 10,000-mile radius was enveloped by an invisible sword wave. In the sky, countless thunderous sounds were heard. It was not until a long time later that it slowly disappeared. Then, two figures could be seen standing in front of them. Their faces were full of solemnity. In the distance, the crowd also exclaimed, "Those two were so strong." They were the top prodigies of the younger generation. Yes, those two were probably just probing attacks and had not used their full strength yet. After all, Tan Yifei had not used the Dayan sword technique yet. Until now, Lin Xian had not drawn his sword and only used his sword chi to fight. Those two were so strong that no one could fight against them except for a few prodigies. Exclamations were heard one after another. Obviously, everyone was shocked by the strength of those two. In fact, even the elders of the imperial family in the sky nodded their heads slightly. At this moment, Lin Xian and Tan Yifei in front of them began fighting again. The two of them were extremely fast, like lightning, and they kept colliding in the sky. Every time, there would be a patch of sword light that turned into sharp sword chi and scattered in all directions. In an instant, the two of them had exchanged dozens of moves, and the terrifying aura made people shudder. However, everyone was still shocked. That was because Tan Yifei had not used the Dian sword formation, and Lin Xian still had not drawn his sword. They were only using various terrifying powers to fight back. Chapter 2054. Boom! 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 Lin Xian continued to attack. Although he did not draw his sword, he released sharp sword chi. These sword chi contained the power of the great dragon sword soul and were extremely terrifying. The powerful power contained within made people want to kneel down. However, one had to admit that Tan Yifei was extremely powerful. As a sky pride of the Dian sacred ground, his unique skills were extremely terrifying. Moreover, the giant black sword in his hand was a precious treasure. This made him, who was originally fierce, even more violent. Buzz! At this moment, Tan Yifei slashed out again. A terrifying sword light appeared in the air and slashed down. This sword contained a terrifying, murderous aura. It locked onto Lin Xian and wanted to kill him. The murderous aura was so powerful that it could even hurt one's soul. Buzz! Lin Xian blocked with a backhand. Countless sword chi intertwined on his palm and formed a green dragon divine shield that blocked the terrifying sword light. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. Then he formed a seal with his right hand, and a terrifying lightning power surged out from his palm and quickly took shape. It turned into a thunder eagle and flew out instantly. Boom! This thunder eagle was extremely terrifying. It was completely formed by the lightning power, and its speed was extremely fast. In an instant, it disappeared into the void like a bolt of lightning. When it reappeared, it was still in front of Tan Yifei. What? It was so fast! Tan Yifei's face changed drastically and his pupils shrank. This was a move that he did not expect at all. Previously, he had seen Lin Xian's ice power and knew that Lin Xian had the power of flames. Therefore, he was on guard against these two powers. However, he did not expect Lin Xian to display three powers. The power of lightning. This surprised him, and he could not guard against it. Therefore, in an instant, the Thunder Eagle appeared in front of him and was about to attack him. Buzz! At this critical moment, Tan Yifei used the giant black sword in his hand to block in front of him. Countless sword runes flickered on the giant sword and turned into rays of sword light that formed a terrifying sword screen that protected him. Boom! In the next moment, the Thunder Eagle collided with the sword screen, and there was a huge explosion. The sky was filled with lightning and thunder, completely drowning the sky. Boom! 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 The sound of thunder was deafening. The surrounding experts and sky prides were also shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to possess the power of lightning. It was really surprising. This kid was too terrifying. First, he displayed the power of ice and fire. Now he displayed the power. Moreover, the power of these three elements, and they were so powerful. What was his background? A series of discussions took place. Even the talented geniuses like Fist Tyrant and First Saber could not remain calm. The reason for that was because the power contained within the three attributes was truly too frightening. It caused them to be extremely fearful. The eighth prince's lips curled into a smile. He thought in his heart that these should be the three powers of the Cerberus. He Exuan Xian Exuan. This lad was indeed a peerless genius to be able to grasp the power of the Hellhound in such a short period of time. The eighth prince had been to Valurium Palace before, so he knew of the existence of Hell Mountain. He also knew that Lin Xian was cultivating on Hellhound Mountain. Therefore, when he saw the three attributes of ice, fire, and lightning, he naturally thought of the Hellhound. In the distance, the thunderous explosions continued, but the sound was getting weaker and weaker. Soon, the lightning that filled the sky disappeared, and everyone saw the situation inside. Then they were all stunned. That was because he saw a figure standing in front of him. A terrifying light screen flickered coldly before him. It formed a strong defense. However, there was a small gap on the light screen. It was only the size of a palm, but it was sufficient. It was enough for the wild thunderbolt eagle to enter. Sure enough, on Tanifei's face there was a small sword mark, a wound. Blood flowed down his face and dyed half of it red. At this moment, under that malevolent face, it was extremely frightening. Blood. Tan Ifei's body trembled slightly. He dipped his finger in a drop of blood and placed it in front of his eyes. Then he roared at the sky. "Damned brat! How dare you hurt me? I must kill you!" He was too angry. He did not expect that he would be the first to be injured. Moreover, it was his face that was hit. It was not a slap to his face. Therefore, he was really angry. In the next moment, he roared. Dian's sword technique. Buzz! Along with this sound, streaks of sharp sword light gushed out from the giant black sword. They turned into swords of light in the sky and spread rapidly. Then they formed a monstrous formation that sealed the entire space. Dian, sword technique. In the sky, countless swords of light emitted a terrifying light, forming an extremely complicated sword formation that completely enveloped Lin Xian. The aura that was emitted caused everyone to be extremely shocked. At this moment, the eyes of First Blade, Fist Tyrant, Jian San, and the other prodigies were shining. That was because the Dian sword formation was really too powerful. In the formation, Lin Xian also frowned. He felt the swords of light coming from all directions, and his expression was also extremely solemn. In the next moment, he waved his hand, and countless icy auras appeared on his body. Protection of ice. An illusion of the goddess of ice appeared, forming a powerful defense that enveloped him and blocked the swords of light that filled the sky. However, at this moment, Tan Yifei sneered, and the corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful smile. It's useless. No matter how strong your defense is, you can't block my Dian sword formation. Just you wait, you'll be killed very soon. His voice was unusually cold and emotionless. Killed? You're really naive. Do you think you're the only one who has a sword formation? Lin Xian sneered. He stomped his foot, and immediately, red sword patterns appeared under his feet. They formed a sword diagram that quickly spread. With him as the center, it instantly enveloped the entire ground. Demon slaying, sword formation. When the sword formation was formed, it released an extremely terrifying, murderous aura. The entire ground seemed to have turned into a sea of blood hell, emitting a dense, murderous aura. What kind of sword formation is that? It's too terrifying. Everyone was extremely shocked. They were all shocked by the blood-colored aura. In the sky, Tan Yifei's expression also changed. He did not expect the other party to have mastered a sword formation. Moreover, it seemed to be quite powerful. That murderous aura made him feel uncomfortable all over. However, he soon sneered because he was very confident in the Dian sword formation. The Dian sword formation was the ultimate technique of the Dian sacred ground. No matter what kind of formation the other party had, it could not be compared to him at all. He was very confident about that. Therefore, in the next moment, he continued to activate the Dian sword formation. Streaks of sword qi flew in the air, forming a light sword that quickly combined. It turned into a light dragon that roared ferociously and quickly charged towards Lin Xian. Chapter 2055. Buzz. Lin Xian also controlled the demon-slaying sword formation to counterattack. The blood-colored sword qi quickly intertwined and formed a blood-colored phoenix that soared into the sky. Boom! 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 The blood-colored phoenix soared into the sky and knocked away all the light swords around it. Then it let out a long cry and turned into a red torrent that charged forward. In the next instant, it collided with the light dragon formed by the light swords. An intense battle broke out in the sky. The two divine beasts that were formed by the light swords seemed to be real and were exceptionally terrifying. However, it was not over yet. Lin Xian waved his hand, and immediately, more blood-colored sword qi surged out from the demon-slaying sword formation under his feet and turned into a phoenix that charged forward. 1, 2, 3, 9. The 9 blood-colored phoenixes were completely formed by the sword qi and covered the sky. When they spread their wings, they covered the entire sky. They emitted a monstrous blood aura and sharp sword qi as they charged toward the light dragon. Although the light dragon was formed by the Dian sword formation, it could not withstand the attacks of the 9 blood-colored phoenixes at all. In an instant, it turned into countless pieces and scattered in the sky. Dian sword formation. Sword shatters the sky. Seeing this scene, Ten Yifei roared furiously. He waved the giant sword in his hand and quickly activated the Dian sword formation to make another killing move. In the sky, countless sword qi flashed. They were densely packed and extremely mysterious. They intertwined with each other and emitted a mysterious power. Boom! 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 In an instant, the terrifying sword qi pierced through the 9 blood-colored phoenixes and turned into a ray of light. Then, it charged toward Lin Xian quickly. Seeing this, the surrounding princes and sky prides were all shocked. This was because they had seen how terrifying the 9-headed, blood-colored phoenixes were. However, at this moment, Ten Yifei was able to make an even more powerful killing move. This really shocked them. In an instant, everyone turned to look at Lin Xian. They wanted to know if he would be able to block the attack. Lin Xian's expression changed, and a trace of seriousness appeared in his eyes. In the next instant, his palm print and the ice protection appeared again. Not only that, but he was also wearing a black cloak battle armor. Between the ice protection and the black armor was the azure dragon divine shield formed by the dragon sword realm. Boom! Boom! When he was done, the sharp sword qi slashed down. Soon, it collided with the ice protection and caused a shocking explosion. Sword light and ice exploded all over the sky, drowning out this part of the sky. This strike was earth-shattering. Even a peerless genius like the Fist Tyrant, the First Blade, was frowning. That brat called Lin Xian would most likely be severely injured if he was hit head-on. That's right, he could only dodge such a powerful attack. It was simply impossible to resist it head-on. Sounds of discussion could be heard, and the third prince revealed a satisfied smile. The reason for that was because he didn't believe that anyone would be able to withstand his attack. On the other side, the 8th prince frowned. Although he was confident Lin Xian, he was Lin Xian, Lin. However, there was nothing he could do now. He could only wait patiently. In front of him, Ten Yifei held the giant black sword in his hand and smiled coldly. He knew that his attack had definitely hit Lin Xian. At the very least, he would be seriously injured. He might even kill Lin Xian. Thinking of this, he became even more smug. However, when the energy in the sky disappeared, he was stunned. Shock even appeared in his eyes. That was because the sword qi in the sky disappeared and Lin Xian's figure appeared. A huge crack appeared on the ice goddess statue on his body. It had been slashed open by the sword. However, under the ice goddess statue, there was a coiled azure dragon that formed a divine shield. It was the azure dragon shield that had blocked the sharp sword qi and prevented Lin Xian from being injured. At that moment, Lin Xian raised his head slightly. His expression was extremely calm. However, there was an extremely cold light in his eyes. What? How could he have blocked it? He was not injured. Seeing this scene, the princes and prodigies in the distance were all stunned. They could not believe it at all. That was an extremely terrifying killing move of the Dian sword formation. Even they did not dare to take it head-on. They could only dodge. However, someone had actually blocked it head-on. It was really surprising. How did he do it? First Blade, Fist Ba, and the others had solemn expressions. The third prince's expression became extremely unpleasant. On the other side, the eighth prince was indeed smiling. At the same time, he heaved a sigh of relief. Impossible, how could this be? In the sky, Ten Yifei shook his head frantically in disbelief. He was very confident in that attack. Even if it could not kill Lin Xian, it could at least injure him. However, what was going on now? Lin Xian had completely blocked his killing move and was not injured at all. This was simply too inconceivable. Damn it, I don't believe it. Ten Yifei roared at the sky and activated the terrifying sword formation again, wanting to kill Lin Xian. However, the demon-slaying sword formation under Lin Xian's feet flickered with an extremely terrifying light. Tens of thousands of blood-colored sword qi filled the sky and blocked the Dian sword formation. At that moment, Lin Xian also spoke. The Dian sword formation is indeed powerful, but it can't hurt me. Therefore, you are destined to lose this battle. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Ten Yifei's body trembled, and a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. He was Ten Yifei, an outstanding genius of the Dian Holy Land, a terrifying genius. Moreover, he was extremely powerful. This time he came to compete for the title of the number 1 swordsman. However, he had actually lost. He could not accept losing to a young swordsman that he had never heard of. Ah, I'm going to kill you. Ten Yifei roared crazily, and a king's domain quickly appeared beside him. It cooperated with the Dian sword formation to form an even more terrifying killing move. However, at that moment, First Blade and the others frowned. Ten Yifei's condition was not right. Was he going crazy? On the other side, Jian Shursen also shook his head slightly. It's over. Ten Yifei must have suffered a serious blow. The most important thing for a swordsman was confidence, because that was the source of their confidence. However, at that moment, Ten Yifei's confidence was shaken. This was fatal for a swordsman. Lin Xian even revealed a cold smile. At that moment, he pulled out the 9 darkness demonic sword, and the sword qi on his body erupted again. At that moment, he was like a sword god, extremely terrifying. The great dragon sword soul in his body circulated, and then he waved a sharp sword light. Ice break. The sword qi that filled the sky emitted a biting cold aura, and then the sword tore through heaven and earth. Bang! This sword directly sent Tan Yifei flying. When the surrounding people saw this scene, their scalps went numb. They did not expect that the extremely powerful Tan Yifei would be defeated in front of Lin Xian. What level had Lin Xian reached? How could he be so terrifying? Chapter 2056. They did not expect that the incomparably powerful Tan Yifei was actually defeated in front of Lin Xian too. What level had Lin Xian reached? How could he be so terrifying? Puff! Tan Yifei spat out blood and was sent flying. He was in a sorry state. He wanted to struggle to get up again, but that sword strike just now had caused him to suffer too severe an injury. There was no way he could continue fighting. In the sky, the royal family elder said in a deep voice when he saw this scene, Lin Xian had won this battle. Then Lin Xian kept his demonic sword. The 8th prince had won another trump jade token. Everyone was shocked. They were afraid of Lin Xian. Peerless experts such as First Blade and Fist Tyrant had solemn expressions. They wanted to fight with Lin Xian for 300 rounds. Even the Golden Lion King from the war tribe, who was beside the first prince, opened his eyes. There was a strange look in his eyes as he stared at Lin Xian. On the other side, Tan Yifei was sent off the stage. His face was filled with unwillingness and despair because the impact of this battle on him was too great. He had always been conceited and did not put anyone in his eyes. Especially when it came to swordsmanship, he thought that he was the best among the younger generation. But now he had been defeated. He had been easily sent flying by a single sword strike. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to him. The third prince's face was gloomy. He said coldly, "Damn it, I must not let this kid live. I must at least injure him severely. Otherwise, he would be too much of a threat. Don't worry. Although he is strong, he is not my opponent." First Blade said in a deep voice. There was a cold light in his eyes. Fist Tyrant also snorted. "I have 80% confidence to defeat him." Both of them were top-notch Skype rides. They were powerful and were at the peak of their respective fields. Therefore, the third prince calmed down with these two people's words. On the other side, the first prince asked, "Are you confident to defeat Lin Xian?" Golden Lion King sneered. "He is not my opponent at all." Hearing this, the first prince smiled. He knew that he had made the right bet this time. With the Golden Lion King as his trump card, it could be said that this time he didn't fear anyone. At this moment, First Blade also stood up. It was my turn. The first strike was unleashed. He was extremely domineering, as if he was the saber god standing in the void. A biting, cold-killing intent surged in all directions. His opponent was a martial art practitioner under the second prince. When that person saw that his opponent was the first slash, his expression stiffened. It was clear that, although he was strong, he was still no match for the first slash. At this moment, First Blade glanced at the young man and said calmly, "If you don't want to die, don't attack." "Humph. Although you're powerful, it won't be easy for you to defeat me." The young man gritted his teeth. Although he wasn't as strong as the other party, it was impossible for him to lose without a fight. Therefore, in the next moment, the young man roared angrily, and an enormous aura surged from his body. At the same time, a king's domain appeared. Facing the first strike, he didn't dare to be careless, and he immediately unleashed his king's domain, coupled with his killing move. He quickly charged over like a berserk god of war. "You overestimate yourself." Seeing that his opponent was charging over, First Blade sneered disdainfully. In the next moment, he stomped his foot and disappeared on the spot like a bolt of lightning. Then, a sonorous sound was heard in the void, and a blue saber light flashed, cutting through the void and splitting apart the terrifying king's domain. Buzz! The biting cold saber landed directly between the young man's eyebrows. If it had gone a little further, it would have split the young man's body in half. The young man froze in midair, and his expression became extremely ugly. His entire body was drenched in sweat, and he was frightened by the saber light. Although the saber light didn't hit him, the terrifying murderous intent that it emitted made him extremely shocked. At this moment, the expressions of the surrounding people also changed, and they were all extremely shocked. They didn't expect First Blade to be so terrifying that he defeated his opponent in one move. Wasn't this a little too powerful? As expected of the number 1 swordsman, he was indeed terrifying. That slash was too fast. I couldn't even see the trajectory of the slash clearly. Many prodigies exclaimed. That was because they realized that even when facing First Blade, they didn't have full confidence. They might not even be able to dodge it and could only take it head-on. "You win." That young man said those words with difficulty. Then he lost all his strength. He was also a prodigy, but when facing First Blade, he didn't even have the ability to fight back. Seeing this scene, the second prince's face became incomparably ugly. However, there was nothing he could do. His status couldn't be compared to the third prince, so he could only sulk at this moment. After the First Blade, the Golden Lion King, next to the first prince, also stood up. He took a step forward and arrived at the battle stage below. Then he stood with his hands behind his back, looking like a golden god of war. He didn't deliberately emit his aura, but that sharp aura was indeed suppressing the crowd to the point that they couldn't breathe. His opponent was a cultivator under the seventh prince. When that cultivator saw that he had to face the Golden Lion King, his expression became extremely ugly, as if he had eaten a dead rat. However, he couldn't directly admit defeat, and he couldn't hold back his face. Therefore, he could only brace himself and fight. One punch. With a simple punch, the Golden Lion King exploded heaven and earth, sending that cultivator flying. Everyone exclaimed at the Golden Lion King's strength, because in such a battle, it was impossible to see how strong the opponent was. It seemed that they could only get a glimpse of the Golden Lion King's strength when fighting against some exceptional prodigy. Next, Jian Shersan, Quan Ba, Duan Qingqing, and the others also made their moves. Both of them settled their battles with ease. Until now, the 8th prince's side was still slightly in the lead. Behind him were the 1st prince and the 3rd prince. Behind them were the 4th prince, the 15th prince, and the 9th prince. At this moment, a tall young man beside the 1st prince stood up. This young man was even more majestic than the Golden Lion King. His body was filled with power. His upper body was bare, and every muscle was like a dragon. This was the terrifying Herculean King. It was said that he had boundless strength, and no one dared to fight him in close combat. His previous performance was also like that. When facing the enemy's attacks, he didn't dodge at all. Those attacks hit his body and made clanging sounds, but didn't cause any damage. His body was like a top-grade armor, abnormally sturdy. As for his opponent, he couldn't even withstand a single punch from him because the power behind it was simply too violent. Seeing the Herculean King appear, everyone shook their heads and sighed. They knew that no matter who the opponent was, there was probably no hope. However, when the Herculean King's opponent really stood up, everyone exclaimed. Everyone was extremely shocked. Chapter 2057. They knew that no matter who the opponent was, there was probably no hope for them. However, when the King of Power's opponent stepped out, everyone exclaimed. Everyone was extremely shocked. The King of Power's opponent was not simple. He was also a young and terrifying genius who was one of the 8th prince's peerless geniuses. The King of Silver Dragon Spears, Lu Fei. He was not weaker than the King of Power. The silver spear in his hand was like a silver dragon, leaving a deep impression on everyone. They did not expect that this battle would be between two peerless geniuses. This should be the most intense battle so far apart from Lin Xian and Tanny Fei. At the thought of this, everyone was excited and nervous as they watched. The 3rd prince also smiled. No matter who won this battle, they would be able to exhaust the top forces of the 1st prince and the 8th prince. To him, there were only benefits and no harm. Lu Fei, you'd better back down. You're no match for me. Your silver dragon spear can't break my defense at all. The King of Power said coldly. His voice was full of power, causing the void to tremble rapidly. How would you know if you don't try? My silver dragon spear is not something you can imagine. Lu Fei snorted. As a peerless genius, he was naturally not afraid of his opponent. So what if his opponent's defense was strong? He was confident in his attack power. Since that's the case, I'll play with you. I'll let you know what it means to have an unparalleled defense. The King of Power grinned. However, although he was grinning, his body emitted a terrifying aura as if a peerless demon king was rapidly awakening. Feeling this aura, the surrounding martial artists felt a chill run down their spines, and a chill ran down their spines. Humph! Lu Fei was even more direct. He took a step forward and quickly charged over. Then he clenched his fist, and a silver spear quickly appeared. Then he stabbed out with the spear. Boom! The entire area of silver light trembled and gathered in the sky. Then it pressed down on the ground. The entire space was completely dyed silver white. That terrifying aura was like a dragon coming out. It was extremely terrifying and made everyone's scalp go numb. In front of him, facing the terrifying spear, the King of Power also made his move. He didn't have any weapons. His fists were his most terrifying weapons. He moved. His terrifying fist shook the void. It carried a green light that filled the sky as it fiercely punched forward. Savage art. This was an incomparably terrifying mystical ability that was rumored to have originated from the ancient times. now that it was being used by the Herculean king. It carried with it a ferocious aura. His fist seemed to have transformed into two peerless demon kings, abnormally terrifying. In an instant, it shattered the void and violently smashed onto the silver spear light. Boom! When the two collided, the heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. The entire sky was distorted, and a huge hole was blasted open in the void. Boundless cracks spread out in all directions. Many martial artists sucked in a breath of cold air, their bodies trembling. Even a peerless genius like Fist Tyrant had a solemn look on his face. Even Lin Xian's eyes flickered. That was because he discovered that the two of them were truly very powerful. They were not any weaker than Tanny Fei. Boom! Boom! In the sky, as the two of them collided, huge cracks continuously appeared and spread in all directions. Seeing this scene, Lu Fei furrowed his brows. That was because he discovered that the other party was actually able to contend with him with a pair of fists. It really surprised him. One had to know that he was a peerless genius, and the silver spear in his hand was even more terrifying. That attack could even penetrate an almighty. However, the other party's fist was blocked, and he did not receive any damage. One had to admit that it was really too shocking. In the next moment, he snorted coldly, held the silver spear with both hands, and attacked again. Haha! On the other side, the Herculean king also laughed out loud. He stretched out his arm, and a terrifying palm like a mountain slammed down, shaking the void. Boom! Boom! This was an extremely terrifying battle. When the two of them attacked, it was earth-shattering. For a moment, the two of them were evenly matched. The surrounding people were extremely shocked because the strength that the two of them displayed was really too powerful. One of them had a fierce attack, while the other had an unparalleled defense. It could be said that they had reached the peak of their respective realms. Boom! The Herculean king became more and more courageous as the battle went on. His defense was unparalleled, and his physique was strong. He was not afraid of these attacks at all. Therefore, at this moment, he was like a god of war, charging over. His entire body was emitting a terrifying power. On the other side, Lu Fei was extremely solemn. The silver spear in his hand kept flying out like a silver river, stirring up the void. That sharp aura was enough to make people shudder with fear. Boom! There was another earth-shattering collision. Then, Lu Fei's body trembled, and he kept retreating. Cracks also appeared on his hand that was holding the silver spear. What? Lu Fei was forced back, and he was injured. When the crowd saw this scene, they exclaimed. It seemed that the Herculean king was indeed stronger. I've said it before, you're no match for me, the Herculean king said loudly. On the other hand, Lu Fei snorted coldly and used his power to heal the wound on his hand. Then he held the silver spear tightly again, and his entire person became extremely fierce. This injury is not enough to defeat me. Next, show me what you're capable of, or you'll definitely be injured. Having said that, Lu Fei took a step forward, and his body suddenly erupted. A silver light, like a silver divine spear, pierced through the clouds. That aura was so powerful that no one could look directly at it. When the crowd saw this scene, they were shocked. They knew that Lu Fei was probably going to go all out. Sure enough, a king's domain quickly appeared behind him, emitting an incomparable light. It was as if a silver dragon was circling around him. Not only that, but his aura also suddenly skyrocketed, and he reached the peak of a 6-star king. It seemed that he was only one step away from breaking through the 6-star king realm and entering the almighty realm. Feeling this aura, many people gasped, and their faces were filled with shock. He had actually reached the peak of a 6-star king realm, and it seemed that he was not far from the almighty realm. Yes, this Lu Fei was really terrifying. They did not expect him to reach such a level. After breaking through to the almighty realm, no one in the younger generation would be his match. Discussions sounded one after another. Obviously, everyone was shocked. The young geniuses of the younger generation looked extremely solemn. This was because they were all 6-star kings, and their combat power was at the almighty realm. However, at this time, if someone was the first to break through and become a true almighty, then he would soar into the sky and suppress the other geniuses. Now, Lu Fei was very close to that step. How could they not be nervous? Chapter 2058. At this moment, Lu Fei was quite powerful. His black hair fluttered in the wind, his eyes were sharp, and the silver spear in his hand was emitting a dazzling light. In the next moment, he stared at the Herculean king and said coldly, "Next, I'm going to go all out. Whether you can withstand it or not will depend on your luck." On the other side, the Herculean king also frowned because his opponent's aura was enough to pose a threat to him. In the next moment, he shouted coldly and circulated the spiritual power in his body. Then his body expanded again. Blue patterns appeared on his body, looking very mysterious. Not only that, these patterns formed a pattern of a wolf's head on his shoulder. It was abnormally terrifying. His aura also skyrocketed. That was the heavenly wolf constitution. Seeing this scene in the sky, the imperial family's elder's pupils shrank as he cried out in surprise. The young geniuses and princes below were also shocked. Heavenly wolf constitution. He actually had the heavenly wolf constitution. No wonder he was so powerful. Everyone was shocked because previously they thought that the Herculean king was powerful because of the savage tactics that had been passed down since ancient times. However, it seemed that it was not only that. Not only did he master an ancient cultivation technique, but he also had a unique bloodline constitution. What was the heavenly wolf constitution? Lin Xian asked with a slight frown. Duan Qingqing was surprised, but she quickly explained in a soft voice. The heavenly wolf constitution was a special bloodline constitution that was very powerful. It was even more powerful than the back of earth constitution. It was even more powerful than the thick earth constitution. Hearing this, Lin Xian was shocked. He had seen the thick earth constitution, which had shocked everyone at the sword conference on Mount Hua. That was because it was said to have an extremely strong defense. He did not expect the heavenly wolf constitution to be stronger than the back of earth constitution, which was shocking. It was no wonder that the Herculean king was so terrifying and had such a powerful bloodline. At the front, Lu Fei also frowned. He did not expect the Herculean king to have the heavenly wolf constitution. No wonder he was so powerful. The Herculean king laughed. "Kid, I have to say, you should be proud that you made me use the heavenly wolf constitution. But now the battle is over." It's up to me whether it's over or not." Lu Fei snorted when he heard this. Then he clenched the silver spear in his hand and attacked quickly. Boom! With a thrust of the spear, the world shook violently. The king's domain behind him instantly expanded and enveloped the entire space. Spiritual energy surged as the long spear turned into a torrent. Endless killing intent soared into the sky, as if it wanted to suppress the power king alive. The Herculean king also roared. His voice was like a clap of thunder, shaking the void. Then he threw out a punch. Above the fist, a blue aura spread out and turned into a ferocious wolf head that appeared between heaven and earth. A terrifying aura rushed out of the sky, tearing the world apart. At this moment, the Herculean king seemed to have transformed into a heavenly wolf. The Herculean king's heavenly wolf bloodline was so powerful. In the sky, the first elder of the royal family was shocked. He frowned as he looked at the heavenly wolf's cry. He knew that the silhouette of the heavenly wolf was stimulated from the bloodline of the Herculean king. It was the power of the bloodline, incomparably terrifying. It was likely that Lu Fei would not be able to win this battle. That was indeed the case. The moment the heavenly wolf's shadow appeared, it tore through the void and slammed onto the silver spear. Instantly, the long spear was sent flying. Not only that, the heavenly wolf's claw slammed onto Lu Fei's body and sent him flying. Lu Fei spat out blood and flew backward. His face was extremely pale. This time he was severely injured. I've said it before. You're no match for me. The Herculean king retracted his fist and snorted coldly. On the other hand, Lu Fei gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with unwillingness. He grabbed the silver spear beside him and wanted to attack again. However, at this moment, the 8th prince stood up and said loudly, "Lu Fei, that's enough. Come back." The 8th prince had no choice but to attack. If he let Lu Fei continue to fight, he would most likely suffer more serious injuries. If he could not recover by then, his losses would be even greater. After all, there would be a second round of competition. At that time, he would snatch it back. After all, a trump card was not a fatal difference. Hearing the 8th prince's words, Lu Fei nodded heavily. Then he turned around and left the battlefield. This was a clash between the 1st prince and the 8th prince, and the 1st prince won. The 1st prince was naturally satisfied. Originally, he had 2 generals under him. One was the Herculean king, and the other was Beizijing. One of them was unparalleled, while the other had terrifying swordsmanship. Now, although Beizijing had sealed his sword and did not attack, however, the Herculean king was extremely powerful. Until now, he had not lost. Moreover, he had invited the geniuses of the battle group. This time he would definitely be able to suppress the 8th prince and the 3rd prince. On the other hand, the 8th prince's expression was solemn. That was because the Herculean king was too terrifying. However, when Lu Fei returned, the 8th prince asked Lu Fei to quickly sit down and recover. Moreover, he asked his subordinates to give him many rare treasures. They were all precious herbs from the imperial palace. The recovery effect was amazing. Lu Fei did not stand on ceremony. He sat down cross-legged and swallowed a pill to recover. On the side, Lin Xian did not speak. However, his eyes were shining. At this moment, he was recalling the previous battle in his mind. He had to admit that the Herculean king's defensive power had surprised him, especially the serious constitution and the barbarian king technique. Both of them were extremely powerful. He was comparing whether his great dragon sword soul could break through the Herculean king's defense. If he did not take the path of physical attacks and took the other path of soul attacks, what would the effect be? One had to know that his heavenly secret divine eyes was extremely terrifying. Although he could not use it at full strength, it was easy for him to use soul illusions and soul attacks with his soul power. Therefore, although the Herculean king was powerful, Lin Xian instantly formulated 2 ways to deal with him. Next, the battle continued. Every battle was thrilling. However, at this moment, the crowd cried out in alarm again. That was because they discovered that it was going to be another earth-shattering battle. Beside the 1st prince, the Golden Lion King from the War tribe stood up again. He was like a sun war god walking in the void. Every step he took brought along a powerful force and light that filled the sky. His opponent was also not simple. It was the 3rd prince's side, Fist Tyrant, who was famous for his fist techniques. Fist Tyrant was a handsome man. He had short hair and a red string tied around his head. He wore short sleeves, revealing his muscular arms. On his palms, he wore 2 red gloves that were covered with runes. These were 2 top-notch treasured tools. Together with his violent fist techniques, they could destroy everything. The crowd went crazy because these 2 were peerless geniuses. They could not imagine what kind of intense battle would occur between the 2 of them. Chapter 2059. When the 1st prince saw this, a smile tugged at the corner of his lips. He knew that he had won again this time. He was very confident in the Golden Lion King. On the other hand, the 3rd prince's face was gloomy. He was still gloating because the 8th prince had lost a great general. He did not expect that it would be his turn in the blink of an eye. To be honest, although Quan Ba was very powerful, the Golden Lion King was too terrifying. Up until now, no one knew exactly what kind of strength he had, because he only used one punch in every battle. A simple punch was enough to defeat the enemy. As for his true strength, no one knew. The eighth prince's side also showed interest. This Golden Lion King was not simple. Until now, no one knew how powerful he was. However, it was estimated that Quan Ba would be able to force him to use 80% of his strength. The other princes and sky prides were also discussing. In their opinion, this would definitely be a fierce battle. Perhaps they could use this battle to see the Golden Lion King's true strength. Humph! Quan Ba also snorted and came to the battlefield. He did not say anything and directly started the battle. Boom! With a punch, a red light soared into the sky and mysterious runes appeared around it. This punch carried an indescribable might. It was like the fist of a deity as it blasted out at high speed. It was as if everything in the world had to submit to this punch. This was the tyrant fist. The surrounding sky prides exclaimed. They did not expect Quan Ba to be so decisive and use his ultimate move in an instant. The tyrant fist was an extremely terrifying fist technique. It was rumored that once it was used, it would sweep across all directions. Boom! On the other side, the Golden Lion King also made his move. He was expressionless and wore a golden armor. He looked like a golden god of war as he also threw out a punch. In an instant, a golden light flickered and a violent shockwave appeared in the sky. It was like a golden sun streaking across the sky. It flew across the sky and collided, causing the entire sky to be torn apart. In the next moment, the two fists collided and an intense collision occurred. The light that filled the sky was so dazzling that no one could open their eyes. After the collision, the two retracted their fists. At this moment, Quan Ba snorted. What war tribe? What Golden Lion King? In my opinion, you are just SOSO. Today, I will suppress you. Is that so? On the other side, the Golden Lion King sneered. His fist changed again. At this moment, the golden battle armor on his body shone brightly as streams of golden chi rushed out from his body. They circled around him. Not only that, but mysterious runes also appeared in the surroundings, floating in the sky. Even in the void, an ancient voice rang out. It was extremely mysterious, like the sigh of a Buddha god. What kind of divine ability was this? It was actually so terrifying. Feeling this terrifying aura, everyone felt their scalps go numb. At this moment, even the first saber, the Herculean King, was frowning. That was because, at this moment, the aura emitted by the Golden Lion King was simply too powerful. It caused them to feel fear and trepidation. Lin Xian also frowned. He couldn't help but admit that this Golden Lion King was really strong. Furthermore, the golden aura that surrounded him was even more hair-raising. However, in the next moment, the great dragon sword soul in his body circulated and neutralized this terrifying aura. However, the others were not so lucky. Those who were stronger frowned, while those who were weaker directly circulated their spiritual energy to support the defense of their battle armor to resist. Was this someone from the war tribe? It was too terrifying. Damn it! Why do I feel like I'm facing a peerless expert? Exclamations could be heard one after another. Fist Tyrant in front also frowned. Similarly, he felt a terrifying threat. In the next moment, he roared angrily, and a red wave of air burst out from his body. The king's domain floated up and surrounded his body. At the same time, the red gloves on his hands also emitted streaks of fiery light, as if they were divine flames. Not only that, but Fist Tyrant's eyes were emitting a blazing light. To be honest, although the other party's aura was terrifying, he was too excited at this moment. That was because he had never met such a powerful opponent. He was also a genius. Now that he met such a person, he was naturally excited and wanted to go all out. Boom! In the next moment, he quickly waved his fist, and fist shadows that filled the sky turned into streams of light, flickering out. Tyrant Fist, Tyrant Massacre. That terrifying fist emitted an aura that could sweep through all directions, as well as a shocking killing intent. On the opposite side, the Golden Lion King still sent out a palm strike. Strange runes flickered on the golden palm, and the golden aura around him also surged. It was like the hand of a Buddha, bringing with it a terrifying power. Lie calm. A cold voice came from the Golden Lion King's mouth. Sure enough, with his palm strike, the entire space was split into two, and an incomparably terrifying crack appeared. It spread forward. Crack! 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 The fist shadows that filled the sky, the terrifying aura, and the domineering aura were instantly torn apart by the crack. What? It was resolved so easily. Fist Tyrant's pupils shrank in disbelief. Wasn't the other party a little too powerful? The surrounding people also exclaimed. This Golden Lion King was too heaven-defying. It could even resolve Tyrant's killing move so easily? The first prince sneered. Humph. The power of the war tribe is not something you can imagine. On the other side, the third prince frowned. From the looks of it, it was impossible for Fist Tyrant to win. However, he did not know how much strength he could make the Golden Lion King use. He estimated that it should be around 80%. If that was the case, only the first saber in his hand would be able to contend against the other party. It's useless. Stop struggling. You are not my match at all. In front, the Golden Lion King looked at his opponent and said coldly, You underestimate me too much. Fist Tyrant only snorted coldly. How could he admit defeat so easily? In the next moment, his fist trembled, and flames filled the sky, forming two horrifying tornadoes that swept in all directions. Tyrant Fist, heaven-blazing mad dance. The two fist shadows turned into two flaming tornadoes that swept out. Everywhere they passed, countless black holes appeared in the space. You overestimate yourself. The Golden Lion King sneered. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly emitted a golden light. It was like a golden sword that pierced through the void. The golden aura around him started to surge. Then it condensed into the image of a golden lion behind him. Boom! Golden kill. Another fist was sent out. The roar of a lion resounded in the world, shaking the void. Then that horrifying fist turned into a golden lion and pounced over. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed everything within 10,000 miles. Chapter 2060. This scene was simply too terrifying. The entire sky dimmed in an instant as if it had been devoured. Everyone felt the threat of impending death. Some of the weaker ones felt their scalps go numb, and they even had the urge to run away. But fortunately, this move was not aimed at them. In the next moment, the sky regained its clarity, and the huge golden lion closed its bloody mouth. However, soon everyone was stunned. They realized that Fist Tyrant had disappeared. Where was he? Damn it, he couldn't have been eaten by the golden lion, right? Exclamations could be heard, and everyone's faces turned pale. The more they thought about it, the more likely it was. Fist Tyrant had really been eaten by the golden lion. Damn it! Seeing this scene, the third prince could no longer remain calm. Fist Tyrant was his right-hand man, and he still had to rely on him to obtain the final victory. However, he didn't expect that the Golden Lion King would actually use such a strange ability to swallow the Fist Tyrant. This really surprised him. Boom! 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 In the sky, the huge golden lion's shadow sat cross-legged like a Buddha. However, at this moment, a deafening sound came from its body, and then its body began to change shape. It was as if someone was fiercely attacking it. Along with this attack, the void also trembled. The crowd exclaimed, Fist Tyrant was resisting. Fist Tyrant was resisting. After Fist Tyrant was swallowed by the golden lion, his entire body was in a state of chaotic nothingness. He was surrounded by violent flame auras that attacked him. However, as a peerless genius, his strength was not to be underestimated. Therefore, in an instant, he used his king's domain to resist the murderous aura that filled the sky. At the same time, he would use his terrifying fists to attack in all directions, trying to break the golden cage. Boom! Boom! 1 punch, 2 punches, 3 punches. The terrifying fists bombarded the void, causing huge turbulence. However, the golden lion was not simple either. After such a long time, it had not been shattered. However, it was only an illusion after all, condensed by the golden lion king with its own spiritual power. Therefore, it did not last long before the golden lion's shadow was shattered and a pitch-black hole appeared. It was broken. It was coming out. In the distance, the other princes exclaimed when they saw the scene. As expected, Fist Tyrant would not lose so quickly. As for the golden lion king, it also narrowed its eyes. To be honest, the other party's strength had also exceeded his expectations. However, he snorted coldly and stretched out his hands, forming a strange seal. Seal of the lion. As soon as the mark appeared, a Sanskrit sound rang out between heaven and earth, as if a god was sighing. Then the huge golden lion in the sky also changed rapidly. It transformed into a huge golden hand. Then it pressed down fiercely. Boom! This attack was simply too terrifying. It was as if the entire sky was about to collapse. Fist Tyrant had just rushed out of the golden lion's body when he was greeted by this terrifying palm. He was not prepared at all, so he was knocked over in an instant. Boom! The heavens and earth trembled as countless cracks appeared on the ground. Fortunately, this was a unique small space. Otherwise, this palm strike would have destroyed the entire palace outside. Feeling the power of this attack, everyone felt their scalps tingle as they started to worry for Fist Tyrant. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. This attack was too violent. He was afraid that Fist Tyrant would not be able to block it. His guess was right. As expected, Fist Tyrant did not manage to block it and was severely injured by this attack. All right, you've won this battle. When the third prince saw this scene, he also stood up abruptly. He quickly asked his subordinates to carry Fist Tyrant back. Fist Tyrant was his capable general. He would not allow anything to happen to him. Then he also asked his subordinates to take out many natural treasures to treat Fist Tyrant's injuries. On the other side, the first prince chuckled as he welcomed the Golden Lion King back. When the other princes saw this scene, their faces turned pale. They had already decided that no matter who it was in the future, they would have to admit defeat when they met the Golden Lion King. Otherwise, the price would be too great. The eighth prince frowned even more. He whispered to the kings beside him, "How confident are you in defeating him?" Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others were stunned. Then they shook their heads and smiled bitterly. If it was before, they still had some confidence. But now, after seeing the Golden Lion King in action, they realized that it was really hard to resist. They were all kings, similar to Fist Tyrant. But now that Fist Tyrant had suffered a crushing defeat, they might not be able to defeat the Golden Lion King. Therefore, these people shook their heads and smiled bitterly. When he saw this scene, the eighth prince sighed. He knew that none of his subordinates could contend against the Golden Lion King. Therefore, he decided that if his men encountered the Golden Lion King, they would also give up. In fact, they would even surround and attack the Golden Lion King in the second round. However, at this moment, Lin Xian said in a deep voice, "I think that if I encounter him, it should be a 50-50 chance." What? Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others were stunned. Even the eighth prince was stunned. The surrounding people all had strange expressions on their faces. What did he say? 50-50 chance of encountering the Golden Lion King? What a joke! Everyone was in disbelief. Although Lin Xian was very strong, the Golden Lion King was even more terrifying. They even suspected that the Golden Lion King had the battle strength of a supreme expert. However, the eighth prince was ecstatic. He lowered his voice and asked, "Brother Lin, are you sure you can fight him to a draw?" "More or less, but I don't know how much strength he is hiding." Hearing this, the eighth prince sucked in a breath of cold air. Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others also looked at Lin Xian with strange expressions. What's going on? Could it be that the Golden Lion King is still hiding his strength? Heavens, hiding his strength? How heaven-defying is he? Moreover, even if you know that he's so heaven-defying, you still dare to say that it's a 50-50 chance? Are you sure you're not joking? Even the eighth prince was shocked. Therefore, he did not place all his hopes on Lin Xian. He even started to plan how to surround and kill the Golden Lion King in the second round. On the other side, the third prince gritted his teeth and asked, "First Blade, if you were to face him, how confident are you?" First Blade took a deep breath. His gaze was incomparably solemn. He said in a deep voice, "If this is his full strength, I have about 30 to 40% confidence. If he's still hiding his strength, then it's hard to say. Then it's only 10 to 20%. This person is too terrifying." Hearing this, the third prince's face was incomparably ugly. He gritted his teeth. War Clan. He knew that the first prince would not be able to invite the War Clan. It must be the first prince's mother, the Empress. She must have spent a lot of effort to invite the War Clan. This first prince was really lucky. Chapter 2061. Then the competition continued. However, there was a change in the situation. The first prince was no longer the eighth prince, but the first prince. The eighth prince and the third prince were tied for second place. On the eighth prince's side, Duan Qingqing had also entered the arena. He had defeated the ninth prince's expert, Gao Jichao, but lost to First Blade. Therefore, the third prince and the eighth prince were temporarily tied for second place. The eighth prince's side was ranked third. Ha 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 ha, it's my turn again. On the first prince's side, the Herculean King smiled again. He was like a king of beasts as he entered the arena. Seeing this scene, the corners of everyone's mouth twitched. Everyone had seen how terrifying the Herculean King was. Even the Silver Dragon Spear King, Lu Fei, could not break his defense. One could imagine how powerful the Herculean King was. Most of the people present would not dare to say that they could defeat the Herculean King. Therefore, at this moment, when the Herculean King entered the arena, everyone's face turned pale, afraid that they would be his opponent. Let's see who it is this time. The Herculean King crossed his arms and stood in the arena with a cold smile on his face. At this moment, Lin Xian frowned. In the next moment, he stood up. What? It's him. When the crowd saw that it was Lin Xian who had stood up, they were all stunned before they exclaimed in surprise. They had seen how powerful Lin Xian was. Now, he was basically the number one swordsman among the younger generation in the Tai dynasty. In addition, he had defeated the genius of the Dian Holy Land. So Lin Xian's combat strength was terrifying. Now, Lin Xian was going to fight the Herculean King. One of them was outstanding in construction. The other had unparalleled defense. Who would win in this battle? Boy, it's you! The Herculean King was stunned when he saw that his opponent was Lin Xian. But then he grinned. Although he knew that Lin Xian was powerful, he was not afraid, because his defense was unparalleled. Judging from the battles displayed by these people, other than the Golden Lion King who was in the same team as him, no one else could pose a threat to him. Even top geniuses like Lin Xian and First Blade were unable to break through his defense. Therefore, he was not afraid of Lin Xian. Instead, he was very excited. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as well and frowned slightly. His opponent's defense was indeed strong, but he had already thought of 2 ways to deal with him. Therefore, he was not afraid. In the next moment, he took a step forward and arrived at the battlefield below. Brat, show me what you've got. I won't dodge. The Herculean King was very domineering. Is that so? Since that's the case, I won't hold back. Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. In the next moment, he formed a seal with both hands and shouted coldly, 5 thunderclaps. Suddenly, in the sky above, the clouds rolled and turned into black thunderclouds, colliding with each other. Suddenly, the 5-colored heavenly lightning descended from the sky and turned into 5-colored dragons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they struck down. Boom, boom, boom. An extremely violent aura erupted, and countless black holes appeared in the void. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions. What? It's actually a lightning tribulation. It's not a lightning tribulation, but a divine ability. Damn it. This brat said that he had mastered the power of lightning. It's so terrifying. Damn it. Even an almighty might not be able to withstand such a lightning attack. Discussions broke out one after another. Everyone looked at Lin Xian with strange looks. They were all guessing what method Lin Xian would use to deal with the Herculean king. However, they did not expect that he would summon a thundercloud and strike down a terrifying energy that was similar to a lightning tribulation. In front of them, lightning descended and a sea of lightning spread out. The terrifying energy impact made their hearts tremble. When the thundercloud disappeared, the Herculean king's figure also appeared. Damn brat, you're courting death. The Herculean king gritted his teeth. Although the thundercloud did not cause fatal damage to him. However, his body was also charred black by the lightning strikes. In particular, his hair was standing on end, making him look very miserable. Seeing this scene, the corners of everyone's mouth twitched, and they had strange looks on their faces. The Herculean king's face was gloomy. Lin Xian laughed coldly. What? You were the one who asked me to attack. Could it be that you can't withstand such an attack? Hearing this, the Herculean king was so angry that he almost vomited blood. He did say that he should let his opponent go all out. He would not dodge at all. However, he did not expect his opponent to be so cunning. Although the lightning did not hurt him, the negative impact was too great. His miserable appearance at this moment made the surrounding people laugh. Humph! Savage art! Support original copy, support subscription. The Herculean king was furious. He decided to quickly get rid of the brat in front of him. Therefore, in the next moment, he used the ancient divine ability, Savage Art. An unusually violent power surged out of his body. Then he waved his fist. The void trembled. This fist seemed to have turned into a wild beast and blasted forward. That terrifying aura pressured everyone to the point that they could not breathe. Then I'll play with you. Lin Xian roared, and a terrifying aura surged out of his body. He was like a demon king, making people unable to look at him directly. A destructive aura surged towards his fist. Then he turned into a black dragon shadow and rushed out quickly. Apocalyptic black dragon fist. With a punch, it could destroy the world. Suddenly, countless thunderous sounds echoed in the sky again. The surrounding wind blew and thunder flashed. The two of them exchanged blows, and they were evenly matched. The terrifying power caused the void to explode completely. What? Is this brat crazy? He dares to compete with the Herculean king in fist techniques? Does he want to die? Idiot, this brat's brain is flooded with water. He gave up his advantage in sword techniques and competed with the Herculean king in fist techniques. This time, he used his weakness to fight the Herculean king's strength. Yes, other than unparalleled defense, the Herculean king's fist techniques were even more terrifying. Perhaps only the Golden Lion King and Fist Tyrant could compete with the Herculean king in fist techniques. The others could not compete with him at all. That was right. Currently, only the Golden Lion King, the Herculean king, and Fist Tyrant could display shocking power in fist techniques. Other than them, it was impossible for the others to defeat the three of them with fist techniques. But now Lin Xian, who was known as the #1 swordsman, gave up on sword techniques and competed with the Herculean king in fist techniques. That was really surprising. What an idiot! The first prince sneered. The eighth prince frowned. They were originally worried whether Lin Xian could break through the Herculean king's defense. But now, Lin Xian did not use sword techniques at all. Instead, he used his fist to fight with the Herculean king. Wasn't that hitting a rock with an egg? However, after the violent energy in front of them dissipated, everyone was stunned. This was because they discovered that the two of them were actually evenly matched in strength. But how was that possible? Their minds went blank, and they could not believe it. Chapter 2062. That was the Herculean king, who was known for his strength. It could be said that his punch could shatter mountains and rivers. However, Lin Xian had actually blocked it. What kind of fist technique did he use? Everyone was stunned. The eighth prince was stunned, while the first prince's face was gloomy. The Herculean king frowned. To be honest, when he saw Lin Xian competing with him in fist techniques, he felt disdain. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but Lin Xian was powerful in sword techniques. He was confident in his fist techniques. Therefore, in his opinion, his fist could even shatter Lin Xian's arm. However, when he came into contact with Lin Xian, he realized that he was wrong, and it was a big mistake. Lin Xian's fist carried an extremely violent aura. It was like a raging dragon that could tear apart heaven and earth. Even if he was powerful and used the savage art, he could only fight to a draw with Lin Xian. Damn it, what kind of fist technique is that? The Herculean king's face was gloomy. He did not know that Lin Xian was using the Black Dragon Fist of Destruction. Moreover, it was the Black Dragon Fist of Destruction that had reached the greater success stage. When the fist technique was used, the aura of destruction filled the sky. Just like that, Lin Xian blocked the Herculean king's fist technique. Damn it, I don't believe it. Savage art. Birth of the savage dragon. The Herculean king roared. The aura on his body suddenly increased, emitting a savage aura. It was as if an ancient war god had awakened. His fist technique was wide open and intertwined with each other. It was as if a savage dragon was born, sweeping across all directions. Humph! Raging dragon, four heavens. Lin Xian also used the killing move of the Black Dragon Fist. Instantly, the violent aura that filled the sky turned into two black dragon claws. They intertwined with each other and tore apart heaven and earth. Boom! Boom! This collision caused an intense explosion of energy. The Herculean king was not afraid. He had the sky wolf physique and was not afraid of such a storm. As for Lin Xian, he raised his hand and blew out the ice protection. A huge ice goddess protected him firmly. It blew away all the violent energy in the surroundings. He withstood it. He actually withstood it again. Heavens, how did he do it? Everyone was stunned. Originally, they thought that Lin Xian would use his super high-level sword art to fight the Herculean king to a standstill. As for whether or not they could break through the defense, that would depend on luck. But now, Lin Xian did not use a sword art at all. He directly used a fist art to fight with the Herculean king. Furthermore, Lin Xian's powerful defense made everyone's scalp go numb. Lin Xian used the world-destroying Black Dragon Fist to fight with the Herculean king, causing the sky to fall and the earth to rend. Everyone was extremely shocked. The Herculean king gritted his teeth. He did not expect his opponent to be able to fight him in close combat. It really shocked him. The next moment, he roared. The wild power in his body increased once again, directly destroying the world and shattering all of Lin Xian's fist techniques. Lin Xian's eyes narrowed when he felt the other party's powerful fist technique. He executed Heavenly Dragon's 8 steps and quickly pulled away. Whoosh! Seeing this scene, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, the Herculean king was still stronger. If Lin Xian was suppressing the Herculean king in this situation, they would go crazy. One had to know that the Herculean king was known to be unparalleled in close combat. Seeing that Lin Xian had been forced back, the Herculean king snorted coldly. "Kid, draw your sword. You're not my match in close combat. If you continue fighting, you won't have any chance of winning." "All right, as you wish." Lin Xian nodded. He had already tested that the Herculean king was indeed strong in close combat. His current world-destroying Black Dragon Fist could not win against the Herculean king. Therefore, he prepared a sword. In the next moment, he clenched his fist, and a black, demonic sword appeared from the void, emitting a cold, murderous aura. Then Lin Xian's aura changed. It changed from violent to sharp sword chi, shooting straight to the sky. The terrifying aura directly pierced through the surrounding void. The great dragon sword soul in his body also started to circulate crazily. Buzz! In an instant, the weapons of the Sky Prides in the distance started to tremble rapidly, as if they were about to leave their bodies. How could this be? What a terrifying sword intent! Was this the power of the number one swordsman? Many people held onto their weapons tightly to prevent them from flying out. Jian Shi-san also frowned because he realized that the sword at his waist had also started to tremble slightly. Buzz! In the next moment, he stretched out a strong hand and slowly placed it on the hilt of his sword. Instantly, his sword quieted down again. However, his expression was extremely solemn. Among those who had weapons, the only one who was not affected was First Blade. The treasured saber in his hand was unusually quiet and emitted a cold light. However, he was not as calm as he looked on the surface. That was because the moment Lin Xian drew his sword, he had also circulated his inner force to suppress the treasured saber in his hand. Otherwise, his treasured saber would also be affected. This guy was indeed not simple. First Blade's gaze was piercingly cold as he stared at Lin Xian. Lin Xian was a powerful enemy who posed a great threat to him. Moreover, he had a premonition that there would be a battle between the two of them. "Let me see just how strong you can be, all right?" First Blade took a deep breath and looked at the battlefield in front of him. Through the battle with the Herculean king, he could clearly analyze how powerful Lin Xian's combat strength was. Even the Herculean king's expression changed when he sensed the strong sword intent emitted from Lin Xian's body. The smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by a solemn look. That was because he realized that his opponent's sword chi was really powerful. That aura made him feel cold all over. In the next moment, he snorted coldly. Blue lines quickly condensed on his body and formed the celestial wolf physique, with the two of them going all out. Everyone held their breaths when they saw that scene. At that moment, Lin Xian clenched his right hand and extended his left hand. He even extended 3 fingers. "I can defeat you in 3 moves." What? Hearing that, everyone went crazy as if they could not believe their ears. What is he saying? He wants to defeat the Herculean king in 3 moves? Is he kidding me? Yes, although he's the number one swordsman with unparalleled combat strength, the Herculean king is not simple either. The celestial wolf physique was extremely powerful. Until now, no one had been able to break his defense. How can such a person be defeated in 3 moves? He probably won't be defeated in 300 moves. I dare say that this kid must be bragging. Just you wait. He'll be slapped in the face soon. Discussions broke out one after another. The 8th prince's side was also stunned. Beside him, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others' mouths twitched slightly. To be honest, they could not understand Lin Xian anymore. The 8th prince could not understand either, so he could only smile bitterly and wait quietly for the result. On the other hand, the 1st prince sneered disdainfully. This kid is really an idiot. He doesn't know how terrifying the Herculean king is. The Herculean king also sneered. I have to say, you're really arrogant. You want to defeat me in 3 moves? Let me tell you, you can't break my defense in 300 moves. Chapter 2063. To be honest, he was very unhappy. He was known for his unparalleled defense, but his opponent wanted to break through his defense in 3 moves? Injure him? Was that a joke? Lin Xian revealed a confident smile and said coldly, "You'll know soon enough whether I'm being arrogant or not." In the next moment, the sword intent on his body erupted again. It was as if countless swords of the gods were soaring into the sky. That terrifying sword Dao aura made everyone tremble. Boom! 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 Lin Xian's aura continued to rise as if he was a sword god. At this moment, even the Golden Lion King was frowning. He could feel the terrifying aura emitted from Lin Xian's body. Even he felt threatened. The first sword. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Xian's figure had already disappeared. He turned into a flash of light and rushed over quickly with the demonic sword. The heavenly dragon's 8 steps displayed extreme speed, causing Lin Xian's sword light to be extremely fast. So fast! Sure enough, when everyone saw this scene, their pupils shrank and they all exclaimed. Many people even stood up with their hands trembling. That was because they could not see Lin Xian's trajectory at all. Clang! The Herculean King's pupils also shrank and his face became extremely shocked. In the next moment, he took a defensive stance. Just as he finished this action, he felt a huge force fiercely hit his body. Clang! An earth-shattering sound was heard as countless cracks appeared in the void. A huge force crashed into his body and sent him flying. Bang! 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 The Herculean King blocked with both hands, but he kept retreating. Wherever he passed, the ground was mercilessly cracked. It was as if there was an earthquake. Lin Xian returned to his original position once again. The sharp aura on his body quickly surrounded him. The prodigies and princes in the distance were all crazy. Even the imperial family elders in the sky were shocked. To be honest, the speed that Lin Xian displayed was too shocking. At that moment, their minds went blank. In the next moment, they came back to their senses and hurriedly looked over. They wanted to see if the Herculean King was injured. Soon, they breathed a sigh of relief. This was because they discovered that the Herculean King had been knocked back more than 1,000 meters, leaving countless deep pits in the ground. However, there were no injuries on his body. Was this the sky wolf physique? This is too perverted. Such a powerful sword light had split the sky apart, yet it was unable to harm the Force King at all? This Herculean King was simply the nightmare of all attack-type martial artists. That Lin Xian definitely had the qualifications to be the #1 swordsman, but he just so happened to encounter the Herculean King, who had such an abnormal defense. He reckoned that this time he would lose. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. His opponent was not injured and was only pushed back. This was indeed beyond his expectations. It seemed that the defense of this sky wolf physique was really strong. However, he wasn't particularly worried because he hadn't used his full strength in that attack. He'd only used 70% of his strength. On the opposite side, the Herculean King put down his arm that was blocking in front of him. Then his expression turned extremely cold. He took a step forward and leapt high into the air like a giant mountain. Afterwards, he arrived near Lin Xian. Bang! When he landed, the ground trembled rapidly. 3 enormous fissures spread out under his feet, forming 3 enormous origin canyons. I've said it before, your attack has no effect on me at all. The way he saw it, the attack from before should have been the other party's full-strength attack. But even so, it did not break his defense. This made the Force King heave a sigh of relief. Is that so? The corners of Lin Xian's mouth curled slightly. Following that, he gripped his sword with both hands and raised it high. Immediately, an incomparably terrifying aura emerged from his body. A swift and fierce sword light surged out from his body, rushing straight to the clouds. Following that, it opened up the clouds that filled the sky. His sword Dao aura strengthened again. This time, Sword 13 also cried out in surprise. He was originally a person who could keep his composure, but now he seriously could not keep his composure anymore. He was a sword Dao expert. He could clearly perceive that the aura brought about by Lin Xian's sword was even more powerful than before. Could it be that he did not unleash his full strength in that attack from before? This was his true strength now. Sword 13's palm was trembling slightly. On the other side, First Blade was also incomparably solemn. His body also emitted a terrifying saber intent. To be honest, this power was beyond his imagination. The Force King's expression also changed. He did not expect that the other party's combat strength and sword intent could actually increase again. It really surprised him. These auras were already threatening his safety. So in the next moment, he roared angrily and unleashed the sky wolf physique. He quickly charged towards Lin Xian. He would not let the other party slash out the sword. Bang! However, just as he was about to move, Lin Xian also took a step forward. Following that, the demonic sword slashed down. A sword chi that was almost 10,000 feet long fell mercilessly from the sky. This attack, Lin Xian used 90% of his strength. Savage technique, roar of 10,000 beasts. When the Force King saw the huge sword chi descending from the sky, his pupils constricted. In the next moment, he waved his fists, unleashing countless terrifying fist shadows that rushed into the sky to resist this sword. Bang, bang, bang. These fist shadows transformed into terrifying beasts. There were cheetahs, lions, tigers, and flying dragons. All kinds of ancient beasts appeared in the sky. They roared at the sky, their voices shaking the 9 heavens. They quickly rushed into the sky to resist the terrifying sword chi. Puff! However, this sword was truly too terrifying. When the sword slashed down, the countless beasts were completely destroyed. Not only that, the entire void was cut in half. On the sword edge, countless spatial cracks spread out. Then, this sword completely drowned the Force King. Bang! The sky collapsed, the earth sank, and countless sword chi waves rushed in all directions. Everyone was shocked, and their minds went blank. They really did not dare to imagine who could block this sword. At this moment, even the first prince was worried. On the other hand, the 8th prince smiled. He really did not expect Lin Xian to be so powerful. When the boundless energy waves disappeared, the Force King's figure appeared. He stood there like a huge mountain, causing people's hearts to tremble. However, there was a terrifying sword mark on his arm. Blood flowed down his palm and dripped onto the ground. The Force King's face was pale, and his eyes were filled with fear and anger. He was injured. The Force King was injured. When everyone saw this scene, they cried out in shock. As the Force King's defense was unparalleled, no one had been able to break through his defense since the beginning of the battle. But now he was injured. Lin Xian's powerful sword broke through his defense. Was this the power of the number 1 swordsman? It was too terrifying. Everyone swallowed their saliva. They realized that facing this sword, they had no power to resist at all. They might even be killed by this sword. Chapter 2064. So powerful. I'm no match for him. Jian Shi shook his head and sighed. Previously, he thought that he could fight with Lin Xian because he was confident in his swordsmanship. However, when he saw the sword, his heart was shaken. He could not block the sword at all. Therefore, even if he encountered Lin Xian, he would lose. It was impossible for him to win. On the other hand, First Blade's eyes flickered and his expression was solemn. This sword strike also posed an incomparably huge threat to him. However, he was confident that he could block it. However, what shocked him even more was that the power of the sword was similar to his full-strength attack. Therefore, if he really encountered Lin Xian, it was hard to say who would win. Beside the first prince, the Golden Lion King narrowed his eyes and a sinister smile appeared on his face. Interesting, very interesting indeed. When the surrounding warriors heard this, the corners of their mouths twitched. F***CK. What a terrifying sword aura. Everyone went crazy, and you said it was interesting? Do you have to be so perverted? In front of them, on the battlefield, the Herculean king was trembling with anger. He was injured, he was actually injured. This was something that he had never experienced in many years. However, he was injured by his opponent's sword. Kid, you dare to injure me? The Herculean king gritted his teeth and stared at Lin Xian like a monster. Lin Xian snorted coldly. I said that I would defeat you in 3 moves. Humph! Don't be so smug. Although you managed to injure me with this sword, you can't easily release such sword aura. Although I'm injured, it's not a fatal injury. The strength of my sky wolf body is not something you can imagine. Having said that, the Herculean king roared to the sky, and boundless energy gathered towards him. Then the blue lines on his body spread out and formed mysterious runes to stop the wound. Although the wound could not heal immediately, the blood stopped flowing. You've succeeded in angering me. Next, I'll let you know my true strength. The Herculean king was really angry. His voice was filled with anger, as if he was an angry demon king. Lin Xian, on the other hand, extended a finger. 1 move. Just 1 more move, and you will be defeated. What? When the surrounding people saw this scene, their scalps went numb. It was as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They were abnormally excited. They quickly discussed among themselves. This Lin Xian was too strong. If the next attack landed on the Herculean king's vitals, the Herculean king would be seriously injured. Not necessarily. I am optimistic about the Herculean king. After all, the terrifying sword Qi had only managed to break through the Herculean king's defense. But it was only an injury to his arm. This was not a fatal threat to the Herculean king. In other words, the Herculean king wasn't seriously injured at all. That Lin Xian was probably out of luck. That's what I think too. That sword strike, just now, was probably the ultimate move of that Lin brat. As for the Herculean king's ultimate move, he probably had not used it yet. Comparing the two, the Herculean king was still superior. Sounds of discussion could be heard as the crowd discussed fervently. However, all of their gazes were firmly fixed on the scene before them. Sky wolf combat body. In front of them, the Herculean king roared angrily. Immediately, the blue runes on his body flickered rapidly and covered his entire body. Not only that, 2 blue wolf heads formed on both sides of his shoulders. They were abnormally ferocious and emitted a terrifying aura. Above his hands, 2 huge blue wolf claws formed. They looked like real monsters and emitted a cold light. On his back, there were 3 blue tails that were rapidly curling. Every time they curled, they brought about a powerful energy wave. At that moment, the Herculean king seemed to have turned into a half-monster. He was abnormally ferocious. In the sky, when the Imperial elders saw this scene, they gasped. Could this be the combat form of the Sky Wolf combat body? The surrounding people were also shocked. They realized that in addition to the Herculean king's defense, his terrifying attack power had increased again. Lin Xian frowned. He didn't expect that the Sky Wolf combat body could change its form. Its power had indeed increased by a lot. The sword Qi, just now, probably couldn't hurt the Herculean king. He had to summon the great dragon sword soul to defeat the Herculean king. However, the great dragon sword soul was his trump card. He wouldn't easily expose it in front of everyone. Therefore, he was prepared to use his second attack, which was the soul attack. In the next moment, he stomped his feet again and rushed over. Sky Wolf combat body, Sky Wolf's wrath. The Herculean king also roared and rushed over. His feet cracked the ground, and his body emitted an extremely terrifying aura. His fists transformed into 2 heavenly wolf phantoms as they quickly attacked, intending to crush Lin Xian. Seeing this scene, everyone in the distance held their breaths and watched carefully. In an instant, Lin Xian and the Herculean king arrived at the center of the field. Their moves were about to collide. However, at that moment, Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. The demon's sword in his hand didn't slash down. Instead, a golden light appeared in his eyes. An extremely powerful soul power surged out. Then, golden runes flickered in his eyes. Buzz! A powerful illusion was cast. On the opposite side, the Herculean king's body trembled and his eyes turned blank. Obviously, he didn't expect Lin Xian to use a soul attack. Therefore, in an instant, he was hit by the terrifying illusion. Boom! In the next moment, he was sent flying and another bloody mark appeared on his body. What? The Herculean king was defeated. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. They were all dumbfounded. They really didn't expect the Herculean king to be defeated. The Herculean king had already displayed the Sky Wolf battle body, which was even more terrifying than his previous defense. However, even so, he was still defeated. How did the other party do it? Also, why did the Herculean king give up at the last moment? Everyone was dumbfounded and didn't know what had happened. The first blade frowned, not understanding the situation. On the other side, the Golden Lion King's eyes flickered, and he was also thinking. On the other hand, the Crown Prince suddenly stood up and clenched his fists with a gloomy face. The Herculean king was defeated. How was this possible? How could the Herculean king be defeated? The Herculean king was sent flying and regained his senses. He roared crazily and couldn't accept the fact in front of him. He wanted to counterattack, but he felt dizzy and his face was extremely pale. Although there was another sword mark on his body, it wasn't fatal. What was fatal was that his soul attack had taken a hit. To be honest, he was too shocked. He didn't expect the other party's third move to be a soul attack. Although his physical defense was unparalleled, his soul power defense was inferior to his physical defense. Moreover, he wasn't prepared at all. In addition, Lin Xian's soul attack was too powerful. It was impossible for him to guard against it. Chapter 2065. How about it? Do you still want to fight? Lin Xian looked at the King Strength King and sneered. The King Strength King snorted. His soul was injured and his strength was greatly reduced. If he continued to fight, he would only lose. He might even be humiliated by his opponent. Therefore, he would not continue to fight. However, he gritted his teeth and said, "Kid, don't be complacent. You only used despicable means this time. The next time I meet you, I will not lose. I will let you know the power of the Sky Wolf battle body." As he spoke, he took out a few healing pills and quickly swallowed them. At the same time, runes flashed on his body and covered his wounds. However, the soul power injury could not be healed in a short time. He could only recuperate slowly. When the King Strength King returned to the spectator stand, everyone looked at him. The Crown Prince asked in a deep voice, "What happened? How did you lose?" He still could not accept the fact. The King Strength King said in a deep voice, "It was soul power. He used a soul attack that I did not expect and did not defend against. But next time, I will let him know how powerful I am." What? Soul power? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Each and every one of them was extremely shocked. They did not expect that Lin Xian's final move was soul power. It was indeed out of their expectations. One must know that they were like the King Strength King. They had been paying attention to each other's swordsmanship. They were all guessing what kind of powerful swordsmanship Lin Xian would use to break the King Strength King's defense. However, they did not expect that Lin Xian did not use any swordsmanship at all. Instead, he used a soul attack. This was indeed unexpected. Not to mention the King Strength King. All the other crown princes did not expect this. This Lin Xian was too terrifying. Apart from his outstanding swordsmanship, he also had such a powerful soul power attack? Who was this kid? How could he be so powerful? Humph! He was just taking advantage of the situation. If they really fought, the King Strength King would not lose. In short, there were those who supported Lin Xian and those who supported the King Strength King. However, no matter who they supported, the fighting strength of these two people shocked them, especially Lin Xian. Everyone felt their hearts tremble. This was because if they were to face Lin Xian in the future, they would have to guard against both his sharp sword techniques and his strange soul force. It could be said that the difficulty had increased tremendously. Next, the competition continued. Since Lin Xian had won once again, the 8th prince now had one more trump jade talisman. Once again, they were tied for second place with the 3rd prince. After that, those who were injured were all recuperating and did not fight again. Besides that, Jian Shisan, Duan Qingqing, Gao Jichao, Suyu, and the others all displayed formidable strength and obtained victory after victory. Soon, everyone cried out in surprise again, because they discovered that it was another fierce battle. This time, the two parties involved were also two peerless geniuses. A person beside the 4th prince, Jian Shisan, had a sword technique that killed people. It was extremely terrifying. The other was Gao Jichao, who was by the 9th prince's side. This person was also a soul power expert. Everyone was very careful when it came to soul power attacks because they weren't easy to defend against. Moreover, if they were not careful, they would be seriously injured. Therefore, they were especially careful when facing this kind of soul power expert, especially someone like Lin Xian, who obviously had an attack method but did not use it. He would suddenly attack when no one knew. The lethality was even more terrifying. The Herculean King was a good example. However, everyone knew that Gao Jichao was also a soul power expert. Therefore, in the face of such an expert, they could defend in advance. Sure enough, Jian Shisan took out a blue necklace and hung it around his neck. It emitted a layer of blue light that enveloped him. This was a soul defense type artifact, which was used to specifically target soul power experts. After wearing the blue necklace, Jian Shisan breathed a sigh of relief. Although he was a swordsman with superb sword techniques, he had to be careful when facing soul power. In the next moment, he snorted coldly, and an extremely terrifying killing intent emerged from his body. He cultivated a sword technique that killed people. It was very cold and ruthless. Therefore, the killing intent on his body was incomparably terrifying. There were probably not many people present who could be compared to this killing intent. On the opposite side, Gao Jichao's body also emitted an extremely strange aura that made people's hair stand on end. Everyone knew that it was soul power. This kind of soul power was formless and intangible. It could not be seen, but it could be felt. Everyone felt a tremor from the depths of their souls. One had to admit that this Gao Jichao was absolutely terrifying. Even Lin Xian narrowed his eyes because he realized that the other party's soul power was indeed powerful. It far surpassed these geniuses. Following the sound of a war drum, Gao Jichao pointed a finger. Suddenly, a green light accompanied by soul power flew out quickly. This was a combination of physical and soul attack. It could be said to be extremely dangerous. Jian Shisan also snorted coldly. He had already activated his soul power defense, so he was not afraid. The sword technique in his hand flashed again, and a sword light flew out. It was very simple and did not have any brilliance, but the power easily cut the void. Bang! The sword easily split apart the ice-cold light. But in the next moment, Jian Shisan's expression changed, because the blue light screen on his body fluctuated violently. Obviously, he had suffered a soul attack. However, his blue necklace was also a top-grade defensive artifact, so it blocked the soul attack. However, his back was covered in cold sweat. Strange, it was indeed too strange. The other party's soul power was almost impossible to guard against. If he did not have this kind of soul defense necklace, he would have been injured. But soon he snorted coldly. Soul power? I have it too. In the next moment, the sword intent on his body suddenly erupted, turning into a shocking wave of air that swept in all directions. The sword intent and soul power of a swordsman were similar, and could even completely resist soul power. And, as a terrifying swordsman, Jian Shi and his sword intent burst out, making everyone's soul tremble. Sword intent? Well then, let's see if your sword intent is stronger or my soul power is stronger. On the opposite side, Gao Jichao raised a smile. In the next moment, the soul power on his body rose. Boom, boom, boom. In the void, an invisible energy quickly rushed over. At the same time, a purple light appeared in Gao Jichao's eyes. Not good, it's an illusion attack. When the people in the distance saw this scene, they cried out in alarm. This kind of illusion attack was very terrifying. If one got lost in it, as long as there was a gap of 1 or 2 seconds, they would probably be injured. Jian Shi naturally knew the danger, so he roared, and the long sword in his hand quickly slashed out, destroying everything. The sword stabbed out, turning into 3,000 sword lights, crisscrossing in front. Like a waterfall, it gushed over. Chapter 2066. The sword pierced out, turning into 3,000 sword lights that swept across the front. Like a waterfall, it gushed over. The void shattered, blocking all the illusions outside. Boom, boom, boom. The void ahead rumbled. Jian Shi's sword chi was too piercingly cold, carrying a monstrous killing intent. Even if Gao Jichao's soul was powerful, he could not kill it at all. The piercingly cold killing intent mixed with sword intent actually successfully resisted the other party's soul power. He blocked it, he actually blocked it. In the distance, everyone exclaimed. As for Gao Jichao, the corners of his mouth raised into a smile. Mirage demon. Then his fingers kept forming seals. The purple light in his eyes flickered rapidly, forming one mysterious rune after another, flickering indeterminately. Soon, the entire sky formed a huge vortex. A cold and gloomy aura emanated from the vortex. Then a few ferocious demons crawled out of the vortex. That huge body covered the entire void. Demon. This was an extraterrestrial demon. When everyone saw this scene, they were terrified. Even the imperial family elders' eyelids twitched wildly. He did not expect that Gao Jichao would actually use such a terrifying method. Demon, this was an illusory existence. It was very strange and could affect the state of mind of a martial artist. It could cause flaws to appear in the martial artist's heart of martial arts. Once this flaw was attacked by the demon, the consequences would be very tragic. If it was light, one's cultivation would drop. If it was heavy, one would directly go crazy. It was possible that one's cultivation would be crippled. However, the demon was very mysterious and usually could not be seen at all. Moreover, very few people were able to use them. But they did not expect that Gao Jichao would actually use it now. F***CK, is this guy crazy? He actually summoned this kind of thing. Damn it, he hit it too well. In the distance, those martial artists looked at this scene and their scalps went numb. This thing was a threat to any of them. Demon? Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. He felt that the ferocious ghost heads above him were a threat to him. However, he snorted coldly. The great dragon sword soul in his body circulated and directly cut off the terrifying danger. Extinguished. The great dragon sword soul's strongest attack could destroy everything. Of course, heavenly demons could also be killed. However, Lin Xian didn't make a move. He just destroyed the uncomfortable aura around him, because this heavenly demon was not mainly targeting him, but was targeting Sword 13. Sure enough, Sword 13 was the first to bear the brunt and suffered tremendous pressure. His forehead was covered in sweat. It was obvious that this kind of heavenly demon had a huge impact on him. However, in the next moment he let out a furious roar and his eyes turned scarlet. A mere sky fiend wants to affect my mind and soul? What a joke! I was born from slaughter, tempering my firm sword intent and immortal killing intent. Nothing can affect me. At this point, the killing intent on his body became even stronger. The surroundings seemed to have turned into a sea of blood and bones. A terrifying murderous aura pierced through the clouds and transformed into 9 blood-colored flood dragons. Now, have a taste of my ultimate move, a feast of slaughter. Accompanied by this cold and emotionless voice, the blood-red color of the void overflowed and dyed the entire sky red. Red hurricanes tore through the void. Not only that, a terrifying murderous aura filled every inch of the space. Even the prodigy prince in the distance was trembling slightly. Damn it! How many people had this guy killed? How could his murderous aura be so strong? God of slaughter. This guy was definitely a god of slaughter. These people turned pale and swallowed their saliva wildly, because this murderous aura was really too terrifying. Even their souls were being threatened. It seemed that it was not weaker than the heavenly demon above them at all. At this moment, even First Blade also frowned. The other party's killing intent was too strong, even stronger than his. Of course, what he mainly cultivated was not killing intent, but saber intent. Hence, with a cold snort, a sharp saber intent emerged and revolved around him, blocking the killing intent that filled the sky. On the other side, the Golden Lion King also revealed a cold smile. His body released a golden light, completely enveloping the platform. Lin Xian also nodded slightly. He had seen the Blood Sword King's inheritance before. It was also a kind of king that focused on slaughter. However, that Blood Sword King's murderous aura paled in comparison to Sword 13 in front of him. This Sword 13's killing intent was really too strong, making him somewhat shocked. Of course, this killing intent could not threaten him. And in front, Gao Jichao frowned. His expression became incomparably solemn, because at this moment the killing intent that filled the sky turned into a solid blood sword and attacked him. Not only that, 9 flood dragons connected heaven and earth. Each one seemed to be real, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws, emitting a terrifying aura. They collided with the heavenly demon that appeared in the sky. A series of violent rumbles sounded, and countless large cracks appeared in the void. Terrifying energy swept out in all directions. In the end, those heavenly demons that appeared in the sky were swallowed by the 9 blood-colored flood dragons. The entire sky was completely shattered. The enormous whirlpool had also completely disappeared. What? My heavenly demon mirage was broken? Gao Jichao frowned tightly, not daring to believe it. His heavenly demon mirage was very terrifying. Even a powerhouse could not break it at all. The other party actually broke it. Have to say, it really shocked him. However, on the opposite side, Sword 13's ordinary face carried a trace of malevolence. His eyes were red like a demon, and there were blood-colored flood dragons spiraling under his feet. The killing feast had just begun. Now have a good taste of killing. Buzz. Saying so, he slashed out with his sword. Immediately, a blood-colored sword light slashed down from the sky. There were 9 blood-colored flood dragons in the surroundings, baring their teeth and roaring, charging towards Gao Jichao quickly. Whoosh! This murderous aura was too terrifying. Even Gao Jichao did not dare to resist it head-on. In the next moment, he tore the void, and his body disappeared, dodging quickly. Finally, he appeared on the other side, and the place where he was originally at was directly smashed to pieces. Want to escape? You can't escape. Now, the entire world is my killing space. The corners of Sword 13's mouth curled into a sneer. The current him was like a real killing god. Moreover, he had long unleashed his king domain, enveloping the space. The other party absolutely could not escape. Damn it, lunatic! Gao Jichao gritted his teeth. Originally, he thought that Sword 13 was just a little cold. He did not expect that at this moment the other party was a lunatic. Those blood-red eyes and monstrous, murderous aura made him feel abnormally uncomfortable. He did not expect that he would actually release a demon with his own hands. In the distance, everyone was also shocked. They had never seen Sword 13 in such a state. How could they know that this was Sword 13's true appearance? Previously, he did not use his full strength at all. At this moment, when the Slaughter Sword Dao was unleashed, it was incomparably terrifying. His entire person had turned into a killing god. Chapter 2067. Previously, he did not use his full strength at all. The moment the Slaughter Sword Dao was unleashed, it was incomparably terrifying. His entire person also transformed into a killing god. Therefore, there was no suspense in this battle. Even if Gao Jichao was a soul force expert and had a variety of lost arts in his hands, in front of such a terrifying slaughter, it was completely useless. In the end, he was besieged by 18 blood-colored flood dragons and was directly blasted flying, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Gao Jichao was defeated. The soul expert that made people extremely terrified was actually defeated. This made everyone find it hard to believe. When they saw Sword 13's crazy appearance, their scalps also went numb. Now, they also included Sword 13 into the list of people that must not be provoked. After all, when that slaughter feast was unleashed, it was seriously too shocking. The competition continued. Next, Gao Jichao and Duan Qingqing on 8th Prince's side fought. In the end, Duan Qingqing was defeated. Because not everyone could be like Sword 13, unleashing an incomparably terrifying slaughter feast. Although Duan Qingqing was also powerful, she was still unable to block this soul attack. On the other side, Sword 13 also became more and more courageous as the battle went on. Once the slaughter feast was unleashed, no one could match it. In fact, even Fist Tyrant was defeated by him. This scene shocked everyone, because Fist Tyrant was an extremely powerful existence. But they did not expect that he was actually defeated. In fact, they did not expect that a dark horse like Sword 13 would forcefully charge out. Until now, everyone could be said to have a very deep impression of his slaughter feast. That terrifying killing intent even made people not dare to fight back at all. Humph! I'll kill you. Finally, First Blade could not hold back anymore. He stood up and looked at Sword 13. Seeing this scene, everyone cried out crazily, their faces full of shock. They did not expect that First Blade was finally going to make his move. First Blade was an existence even more terrifying than Fist Tyrant. Moreover, up until now, he had not been defeated. More importantly, those who had fought with him were all defeated by one blade. This terrifying method made people's hair stand on end. Now, First Blade was about to face off against the dark horse, Sword 13. Who would be stronger? This was what everyone was looking forward to, because what Sword 13 displayed before was really too powerful. There were even many people who thought that he might surpass Lin Xian and become the #1 swordsman. Therefore, facing First Blade now, everyone was extremely shocked. Humph, you're finally going to make your move? Although Sword 13's appearance was ordinary, at this moment he carried a supreme killing intent. Even in the face of the first strike, he did not have the slightest fear. You're not bad. You're worth my time. However, you have no chance of winning at all. The First Blade was even more domineering. Is that so? I've long wanted to experience your 7 Extinction Saber art. You'll see. First Blade said coldly. His aura gradually solidified, as if a peerless divine blade was slowly being unsheathed. On the other side, countless blood-red lights also appeared behind Sword 13, spreading out in all directions. It was about to begin. When the crowd saw this scene, they were all agitated. Their eyes were fixed on the two of them. He didn't want to miss out on any details. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes as well. He wanted to see just how powerful the first slash was. Boom! A sharp saber light rose from the first saber. It seemed to have turned into a sharp saber and slashed toward the void. Not only that, but his body was also filled with countless saber lights. First Blade's black hair fluttered in the wind. His eyes were sharp, and he looked like a god of war. Countless people looked up to him. Boom! On the other side, beside Sword 13, the feast of slaughter quickly unfolded. The sky was filled with blood-red lights, forming blood-red dragons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, spreading out in all directions. It formed an extremely terrifying scene. The aura of the two collided, constantly clashing in the air. Every time it shattered the void. Boom! At this moment, the first blade let out a cold shout. The blue saber light on his body erupted once again, shooting straight into the sky. It turned into a huge saber light, shattering all the 9 dragons that rushed over. Around him, a divine saber domain was floating, emitting a terrifying aura. Terrifying! When the surrounding crowd saw this scene, they were all shocked. How terrifying Sword 13's slaughter feast was, they had experienced it before. But now the first blade was so powerful that it instantly sent 9 blood-red dragons flying. It even completely suppressed the feast of slaughter. One had to admit that it was indeed shocking. What kind of terrifying realm had the first blade reached? No one dared to imagine. Sword 13 also frowned. He did not expect that his feast of slaughter would be suppressed by the other party. Sure enough, the other party was really strong. Storm of slaughter. But in the next moment his eyes turned red. With a ferocious expression, he quickly waved the long sword in his hand. Boom! 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 Dragon roars sounded one after another. Suddenly, 18 dragons quickly appeared. That monstrous, murderous aura scattered the clouds in all directions. From afar, it was as if a real divine beast had descended into the sky. The 18 dragons quickly attacked the first blade. It was this move that had defeated Gao Jichao. However, the first blade snorted coldly. In the next moment, his powerful hand grasped the blue saber at his waist. 7 blade techniques. First blade. A sonorous sound was heard. Then, the blue saber light suddenly erupted. It was as if the 9 heavens and the Milky Way had descended into the world. It turned into a light that was 100 feet long and fiercely charged forward. Roar! 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 The 18 blood-red dragons roared in the air. Each of them was like a real demonic beast. Their bodies emitted blood-red light, causing the surrounding void to crack. In the next moment, they quickly blasted towards the blue saber light from all directions. Boom! An extremely frightening energy storm quickly exploded in the void. The terrifying light was so dazzling that everyone could not open their eyes. In fact, the entire sky was completely enveloped by this light. In the sky, there was an intense collision. In just an instant, 3 of the dragons were beheaded. They did not resist at all. However, the remaining 15 flood dragons pounced on the blue saber light in a frenzy. But right after that, another 4 flood dragons were split in half. The red light exploded and dyed the entire sky red. It was as if it was real blood. It carried a monstrous smell of blood. It made people want to vomit. However, being besieged by so many blood-red dragons, the shocking blue saber light dimmed. However, the sharp aura on it was getting stronger and stronger. Buzz! At this moment, the first blade struck again. The second blue saber light was slashed out. It was even more violent and huge. Like a torrent, It instantly covered the entire sky. As the saber slashed down, the remaining dozen blood-red dragons were instantly split in half. For a moment, there was a huge blue torrent rolling in the sky, covering the void below. Seeing this scene, Jian Shisan's pupils shrank. Chapter 2068. Seeing this scene, Jian Shisan's pupils constricted. He did not expect that his ultimate move would be broken by the other party in 2 slashes. It really shocked him. The surrounding princes and geniuses were even more shocked, especially Gao Jichao, whose face was incomparably pale. It was because of that move that he was defeated previously. Unexpectedly, the first slash was so powerful that it broke his opponent's ultimate move in 2 slashes. Boom! The third slash of the 7 ultimate saber techniques. At this moment, the aura of the first slash erupted again. He was incomparably violent, and the huge saber light illuminated the world. With a slash, it carried thousands of rays of light and turned into a terrifying saber light that slashed down from the sky. The light was so dazzling that no one could look directly at it. In the sky, the void was instantly broken, and the mountains and rivers below were even more sunken. Under this slash, nothing could exist. Slaughter feast, Azura! Jian Shisan also roared, and suddenly the red light on his body shone even brighter. It was bright red like blood. It made the entire sky tremble. Rays of sword chi flew out from his long sword and quickly condensed in front of him, forming a huge blood-red giant. It was indomitable like a huge mountain giant. It held a shield in its left hand and a blood-red divine spear in its right hand, emitting a terrifying aura. Azura! The blood-red giant roared, and then the divine spear in its hand quickly stabbed out. Boom! As the spear stabbed out, the blood was burning, and the red light that filled the sky directly pierced through the void. The surrounding mountains collapsed. One could imagine how terrifying this attack was. Everyone was stunned. They did not expect Jian Shisan to have such a terrifying killing move in addition to the 18 blood-red dragons. The blood-red giant was abnormally ferocious, as if it was really an Azura that crawled out of hell. Boom! The blood-red long spear collided with the third saber light, and an earth-shattering collision immediately occurred. Crack! Boom! The red divine spear in the Azura's hand instantly shattered and scattered into the void. However, the 3 blue saber lights were also broken in half from the middle, turning into countless fragments. It was a draw. Everyone exclaimed. They did not expect this attack to be evenly matched. The first blade also frowned. He did not expect that someone would be able to block his 7 blade techniques. Thinking of this, he coldly snorted, and the sharp light in his eyes exploded once again. Then, the 4th slash ruthlessly slashed out. It was too fast. One slash after another. There was no pause at all. Ordinary kings would need to spend half a day to unleash such a terrifying move. However, in the first blade hand, it was as smooth as flowing water. It was as if it was not a killing move, but an ordinary move. One could only imagine how terrifying the first strike was. Boom! Sure enough, after the first blade strike on sword 13's side, Azura had yet to condense a second divine spear. Therefore, he could only defend passively. In his left hand, a huge blood-red shield was raised high, like a red mountain standing in the void. On the shield, there were mysterious runes that emitted a bloody aura. At this moment, under Sword 13's urging, it shone even more brilliantly. In the next moment, the 4th saber mark slashed on it. Immediately the world shook. Mountains and rivers were shattered, and countless cracks appeared on the ground. However, this slash was too shocking. Therefore, although the blood-red shield was terrifying, it was actually split in half from the middle. Not only that, the Azura's left hand was also cut off. What? Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed in surprise. Sword 13's pupils constricted. In the next moment he roared, and the Asura in front of him roared incomparably. On his right hand, a second blood-red spear condensed again and quickly charged out. It was useless. It was over. 7 blade techniques, the 5th slash. The first blade's expression was cold, and his voice was emotionless. Then, the 5th saber light slashed down. Heaven and earth turned into a tornado and fiercely slashed over. The huge Asura was split in half from the middle, turning into 2 pools of blood. It was like a sea of blood flowing on the ground. However, this saber light did not disappear and quickly arrived in front of Sword 13. Damn it! Seeing this scene, Sword 13's pupils constricted. He did not expect that the Asura he summoned would be split in half. This made him unable to believe it. At the critical moment, he raised the red long sword in his hand to block. 3,000 streaks of sword energy slashed out in a row, turning into a light screen in front of him. But it was useless at all. The 5th slash of the 7 blade techniques was incomparably terrifying. It tore through the void and ruthlessly tore all of the sword curtain apart. Then, it slammed onto Sword 13's long sword. Immediately, Sword 13 vomited blood and flew backward, directly defeated. Seeing this scene, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The first slash was indeed incomparably terrifying. Even such a powerful Asura could be killed. Even the terrifying Sword 13 could be defeated. Looks like almost no one was his match. Everyone was extremely shocked. They did not know if that Lin Xian could beat the first slash or not. To be honest, the strength that Sword 13 displayed previously was really too powerful. It made them think that he had already surpassed Lin Xian. And now, the first slash actually defeated Sword 13. Then, could he defeat Lin Xian? This was the anticipation in everyone's hearts. After all, Lin Xian was currently holding the title of #1 swordsman, and the first slash was even more of a peerless swordsman. Between the two, who was stronger and who was weaker? They were looking forward to it. You're very strong. I lost. In the distance, Sword 13 stood up and quickly swallowed a medicinal pill. At the same time, the blood-colored light on his body disappeared. The scarlet in his eyes also gradually faded, and then his expression returned to normal. The other party was indeed very strong, surpassing him, because the 7 blade techniques had only slashed out 5 times. He knew that the following 2 slashes were even more terrifying. Even if he continued to fight, he was afraid that he would not be able to resist. In the next moment, he looked at Lin Xian. There was also a trace of anticipation in his eyes, because he also wanted to know if Lin Xian fought the first slash, what would the situation be? Would he win? In the eyes of others, he surpassed Lin Xian. But Sword 13 himself knew that he was still a little inferior compared to Lin Xian, because from the last time Lin Xian displayed sword energy, Sword 13 knew that the other party had surpassed him. It was just that he did not know, compared to the first slash, who was stronger. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Lin Xian and the first slash. And the first slash lived up to everyone's expectations. He did not leave the field, and directly pointed his long saber at Lin Xian. Then he said coldly, "Kid, do you dare to fight?" Seeing this scene, everyone was in an uproar. Crazy! The first slash was indeed interesting. He challenged Lin Xian as soon as he came up. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian also stood up and said loudly, "Why wouldn't I dare?" However, you've consumed a lot of energy now, so you should recover your strength first. I won't take advantage of you. Chapter 2069. You've consumed a lot of energy, so you should recover your strength first. I won't take advantage of you. All right. First Blade nodded, then roared at the sky. He sucked hard, and the spiritual power in the sky gathered, forming a huge vortex that merged into his body. Not only that, He took out a golden bottle from his storage ring and poured out a drop of golden liquid. 10,000-year spiritual liquid. Seeing this scene, everyone exclaimed. Lin Xian also frowned. He had once owned such a thing, so he naturally knew the power of this effect. It could recover the spiritual power consumed in an instant. As expected, First Blade's aura quickly recovered and reached its peak. Then he looked at Lin Xian again. I've already recovered to my peak, so you should have no reason to refuse this time. As you wish. Lin Xian took a step forward, turned into a stream of light, and arrived at the battlefield in front of him. Very well. Kid, I've been wanting to fight you for a long time. Seeing Lin Xian arrive at the battlefield so decisively, First Blade revealed a cold smile. Next, I'll let you have a taste of my 7 ultimate saber technique. Clang! Lin Xian also pulled out the 9 darkness demonic sword, then said in a deep voice, You don't have to use the first 4 slashes. I've seen it, and it has no effect on me. You can use the 5th slash directly. What? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. They couldn't believe their ears. Jian Shi-sen had just returned to the spectator stand, and when he heard this, his body trembled and he almost fell to the ground. The first 4 slashes are useless against him. Using the 5th slash directly? That's too arrogant. Although he knew that Lin Xian was powerful and had surpassed him, he did not think that Lin Xian could easily take the first 4 slashes. Could it be that Lin Xian still had some sort of trump card? Thinking of this, Jian Shi-sen's eyes were like torches as he stared straight ahead. Hearing this, First Blade also frowned. He felt that Lin Xian was too arrogant to want to take his 5th slash directly. However, a cold smile appeared on his face soon after. Good kid. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. The next moment he snorted coldly, and the saber light on his body became extremely sharp again, emitting thousands of rays of light. Then he raised the saber in his right hand, and a terrifying saber intent quickly surged out. The shocking saber radiance soared into the sky and dyed the entire sky blue. What a powerful aura! Was this the 5th move of the 7 blade techniques? Everyone was shocked when they felt the saber intent. The first 4 slashes were already so terrifying. The 5th slash was probably going to shock the heavens and earth. And this Lin Xian actually wanted to directly receive such a powerful attack? Could he withstand it? For a moment, everyone was worried about Lin Xian. Lin Xian also focused his gaze. To be honest, this blade was very strong, but he was not afraid. In the next moment, he gripped the 9 Serenity's demonic sword, and the sword intent on his body quickly erupted. Black flames danced on his body. It emitted a terrifying heat wave. Then, a black lotus flower formed on the sword. Hell Sword Lotus. Lin Xian waved the demonic sword, and the great dragon sword soul and hellfire on his body surged out at the same time. They intertwined with each other, forming a huge lotus flower. The lotus flower spun continuously above him and condensed into form. Each petal was extremely black, and its shape was like a black demonic sword. 9 black sword auras combined with each other, and their aura was monstrous. It was like an ancient mountain, suppressing the first saber in front of it. The first saber also shouted coldly, and his arm suddenly fell. Suddenly, the 5th move of the 7 blade techniques quickly erupted. Boom! This move shattered the heavens and earth, and ghosts wailed and wolves howled. There was lightning and thunder all around, and the terrifying saber radiance made everyone's hair stand on end. On the other side, Lin Xian also swung his sword. The Hell Sword Lotus above also spun quickly. 9 black sword auras erupted, forming a black sea of fire and sword radiance that filled the sky. The aura also made people tremble. This was the ultimate move of the 2. Once it was used, it caused a strange phenomenon in the heavens and earth. The sky directly split open, and a torrential rain poured down. There was lightning and thunder all around. There was a strange sound in the sky, as if ghosts were wailing and wolves were howling. The princes who were watching from afar were all stunned. Even the elders of the royal family had solemn expressions. What kind of killer move could cause such a strange phenomenon in the heavens and earth? Boom! In the next moment, the ultimate moves of the two collided. Suddenly, a terrifying energy erupted, and large cracks appeared in the void. Thousands of spatial cracks spread in all directions. Boom! The impact this time was too terrifying. Even the prodigies on the spectator stands in the distance all made a move to resist. They had no choice. The aftermath of this energy had already affected them. Crack! Crack! At the critical moment, the elders of the royal family activated the defensive formation. Ancient and mysterious formation runes flickered on every spectator stand, blocking the aftermath of this energy. Only then did the prodigies let out a sigh of relief. However, they were still looking forward with pale faces. Boom! It was a mess in front of them. An entire space fell into an extremely chaotic state. Lin Xian and the first saber's figures were still engulfed. There was only a violent flow of energy in the surroundings, and it swept wildly. Boom! At this moment, black flames suddenly surged out from somewhere in front of them, tearing apart the violent flow of energy. Then, they converged and formed a black flame giant. It roared at the sky, shattering that part of the world. Not only that, the flame giant put its palms together and formed a giant flame sword that was almost 1,000 feet long. It burned fiercely and connected the heavens and the earth. Accompanying it was Lin Xian's cold voice. Fire God roar! With a furious roar, the giant flame giant slashed down with the giant flame sword. Whoosh! Whoosh! On the other side, countless blue saber lights appeared, forming a huge light ball vortex that slashed out a vacuum. Then, the first saber's figure also appeared. He held a blue saber in his hand and looked around disdainfully. Then, he used the 6th move of the 7 saber techniques. It was another intense collision. The cracks in the sky were even more terrifying. Each of them stretched for thousands of miles, and one could not see the end of it. It was pitch black, as if the entire world had been torn apart. In the entire sky, tens of thousands of lightning flashed in those cracks. Sword, chi, and saber lights scattered all over the sky, and there was a terrifying whistling sound. There was even a rain of blood floating down from the sky. However, this was not real blood. It was formed by the convergence of these energies. It was a phenomenon of heaven and earth. The prodigies in the distance were enveloped by the formation. When they saw this scene, their lips turned pale, and their faces were filled with horror. They realized that these two people were too powerful. They could not resist this kind of attack at all. At this moment, even the Golden Lion King's expression was grave. Obviously, this kind of attack could threaten his safety. Chapter 2070. He's really strong. I'm no match for him. Jian Shi-san looked at this scene and sighed. He realized that he had guessed correctly. Lin Xian was stronger than him. That was because he could not block the 4th move of the 7 ultimate saber technique. However, the other party was able to block the 6th move, far surpassing him. At this moment, the most nervous ones were the 8th prince and the 3rd prince. Both of them clenched their fists and their eyes flickered. That was because this battle was very important to them. The first prince had the Golden Lion King, which was very powerful. Lin Xian and the First Blade were both their trump cards. It could be said that they were the strongest people in their hands. Now the two of them were fighting. Who would win and who would lose? This would determine who would be ranked second behind the first prince. Therefore, the two of them were extremely nervous. In front of them, in the countless cracks and blood rain, 2 figures flashed out. It was Lin Xian and the first blade. Among them, Lin Xian was dressed in a red robe that was as red as blood and was not stained by any dust. There were also no energy fragments on it. He was like a banished immortal, dodging quickly in the energy storm that filled the sky. On the other side, it was the first blade. His clothes trembled and his black hair fluttered. His entire person carried a terrifying, murderous aura. He also strode over, crushing the void. Boom! Lin Xian slashed out with his sword, carrying the aura of a galaxy. The terrifying sword Qi surged forward like a dragon. The first blade saber light was like a galaxy, extremely dazzling. It carried the power of the stars and the sharp saber light rolling over. The casual attacks of the two of them carried the aura of a supreme cultivation technique. It was unimaginable. Soon, the distance between the two of them was less than 1,000 meters. At this moment, the first blade attacked again. It was the 7th move of the 7 ultimate saber technique. This voice was like thunder, resounding between heaven and earth, causing everyone's hearts to beat wildly. Some people even fell to the ground. There was no other way. The aura was too terrifying. After this voice, several blue saber lights appeared beside the first blade and surrounded him. Each of them was indomitable. Then, the 7 saber lights merged into an even larger saber light that tore through heaven and earth. What? The 7th move was actually the combined energy of the first 6 moves? Heavens! Just how terrifying would this be? Despair filled their faces. Everyone had already witnessed the power of the first 6 slashes. As for the 7th slash, it was formed by combining the first 6 slashes. One could imagine how powerful it was. How heaven-defying would it be? It's over. This move is too terrifying. That Lin Xian probably won't be able to withstand it. Unless he had a heaven-defying trump card, it was impossible for him to win. Sure enough, the first slash was really powerful. Numerous discussions were heard. At this moment, the Herculean king's face turned slightly pale. He gritted his teeth and said, "Even I wouldn't be able to defend against this strike, let alone that brat." Indeed, this saber strike could already break through his heavenly wolf physique. Therefore, his expression was extremely solemn. Since the Herculean king had said so, everyone was even more convinced that Lin Xian would not be able to block it. The third prince sneered coldly. "Humph! The might of the first saber strike is not something you can imagine. The 7 ultimate saber technique was incomparably heaven-defying, especially the 7th slash. Its power was several times that of the first 6 slashes. No one among the Almighties could block it." On the other hand, the 8th prince was extremely nervous. He also felt the terror of this move. Unless Lin Xian really had a heaven-defying trump card, he was afraid that he would really lose. Damn it! This made him very unwilling to accept it. In front of him, Lin Xian also frowned slightly. The threat that this move brought to him was also huge. He took a look. Even his ice guardian would not be able to block it. The black armor was also not enough, unless he hid in the black earth. However, a battle was not just about passively taking a beating. If he could not defend, then he would not defend. He had the heavenly dragon's 8 steps and extreme speed. He was confident that he could dodge this attack. Moreover, everyone had underestimated his strength. He was a swordsman who had the great dragon sword soul. His attack power definitely surpassed his opponent's. Therefore, Lin Xian was prepared to take this attack head-on. He did not need to use the great dragon sword soul. He only needed to use the great dragon sword soul to its full power. Boom! Roar! Suddenly, a deep dragon roar sounded from his body. Then heaven and earth were torn apart, and lightning from the 9 heavens descended. At the same time, the sword aura on his body suddenly erupted. The aura continued to rise, tearing through the void. What? He could still increase his sword chi? Seeing the scene, everyone went crazy. Previously, They thought that Lin Xian was bound to lose. But now, it seemed that it was not certain. Indeed, the eighth prince also stood up excitedly. This sword qi was so powerful. It was not weaker than the first blade. He was simply too excited, because he had discovered that Lin Xian's aura was still continuing to rise. How was this possible? On the other hand, the third prince's pupils shrank. Originally, when the first blade used his ultimate move, he was already confident that he would win. But now his opponent still had a trump card. Could it be that his opponent was still hiding his strength? Thinking of this, his face became incomparably ugly. The first blade also frowned. His opponent's sudden outburst of aura was not good news for him. He knew that he could not wait any longer. He had to stop his opponent. In the next moment, he quickly made his move. The seventh move of the seven-blade techniques was quickly slashed out. Boom! This slash caused the entire world to blur. It was impossible to withstand it. In an instant, it arrived above Lin Xian. At this moment, Lin Xian was also incomparably powerful. His power was unimaginable. In the next moment, he shouted coldly, and the demonic sword in his hand suddenly enlarged, turning into a black dragon that bared its fangs and brandished its claws and flew out. Boom! 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 Countless saber lights crisscrossed, and a dragon's roar sounded. Feeling the dragon's roar, the blood in the royal elders and the prince's bodies kept rolling. One by one, they were shocked. Damn it! What's going on? Why is there the aura of the path of the dragon? They were too shocked because, as members of the royal family of the Tai dynasty, they all had the aura of the path of the dragon in their bodies. They could connect with the dragon veins of the earth. But now, the familiar aura of the path of the dragon came from the battlefield in front of them. They could not believe it at all. Also, what was going on with the dragon's roar in the sky? Could it be that someone was related to the dragon clan? They were indeed too shocked. In the Middle Continent, only the royal family of the 9 great dynasties could display the aura of the path of the dragon. Other than that, it was impossible for others. Of course, other than the legendary and mysterious dragon clan. However, the dragon clan was a legend. They had disappeared for tens of thousands of years and had never appeared at all. Therefore, when they saw this scene, they were extremely shocked. On the other side, even the Golden Lion King frowned. 2 sharp golden lights shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void as if he wanted to see the truth. Chapter 2071. On the other side, even the Golden Lion King furrowed his brows. 2 sharp golden rays shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void as if he wanted to see the truth. What? It's him. Soon, the Golden Lion King furrowed his brows. That was because he used a great ability to see the situation in front of him. He saw a ferocious azure dragon coiling around Lin Xian's body. It was very terrifying. That dragon aura was coming from Lin Xian's body. He wasn't a member of the royal family, so why did this aura feel familiar? The Golden Lion King's expression was very serious. He realized that there was a cloud of mist around his opponent, making him unable to see clearly. Ka-ka-ka! Boom, boom, boom! At this moment, the situation in front of him changed. The shocking attack of the 2 caused the sky to collapse and the earth to crack. Soon, cracks appeared on the huge blue saber light in the sky. Then, it exploded, turning into a rain of light. However, the black demonic sword slashed down heavily, enveloping the first sword light. Bang! The first sword light's pupils shrank. At this moment of crisis, he used his strongest defense. A blue armor appeared on his body. Then, a blue light shield enlarged above his head. Otherwise, he would have 2 defensive rings on his hand, which also propped up a light shield. For layers of powerful defense were resisting. However, it was useless. The 9 darkness demonic sword was too sharp. This sword slashed through all of his defenses. The first sword light was sent flying. He won. Seeing this scene, the eighth prince waved his fist excitedly. He was too happy. He didn't expect that the situation that he was bound to lose would turn around so drastically. As for the others, they were all in an uproar. They were all dumbstruck. The third prince's side was dead silent. The third prince's face was even more ashen. He didn't expect that the first sword light would lose in the end. Damn it, what kind of sword technique is this? It's so terrifying. The third prince gritted his teeth and looked forward unwillingly. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to recruit Lin Xian as his subordinate just because he was a step late. And it was because of this youth that he suffered a fatal blow. Thinking of this, he gritted his teeth and a strong killing intent appeared in his eyes. In the second round of the competition, they would need to surround and kill their opponents. He had to get rid of the other party. He couldn't allow this threat to remain. The first prince's face was also gloomy. The power that Lin Xian displayed was enough to threaten him. Therefore, a fierce killing intent appeared in his eyes as well. The Golden Lion King also said in a deep voice, "Don't worry, when I meet him, I will personally deal with him." Hearing this, the first prince smiled, his lips curling into a smile. He knew that the Golden Lion King would not boast. Since the other party had said so, he should be able to defeat that Lin Xian. He had absolute confidence in the Battle Clan and the Golden Lion King. As for the others, they were completely stunned. Lin Xian's victory was beyond everyone's expectations. This was something that they had not expected at all. But now, it seemed that the other party was indeed terrifying. He was definitely the #1 swordsman. Even Fist Tyrant, the Herculean King, and Jian Shi-san were frowning as they looked at Lin Xian. They admitted that they were not his opponent. In other words, there was almost no one who could defeat Lin Xian now. Of course, there was one exception, and that was the Golden Lion King. The Golden Lion King coldly snorted. His eyes shone brightly. He looked at Lin Xian. A terrifying battle intent soared from his body. Interesting. Originally, I thought that other than the War Clan, no one else would be able to enter my eyes. I didn't expect that you would break my understanding. Not bad. You're interesting. You are worthy of me making a move. What? Hearing this, everyone's scalp went numb. Lin Xian was already so powerful, and this Golden Lion King still dared to treat him with such an attitude. Could it be that he was even more powerful? However, when they thought of the mysterious legends of the Battle Clan, they were extremely excited. Lin Xian also turned his head and looked at the Golden Lion King. It was indeed very powerful. Moreover, from the looks of it, its strength should be above the first slash. He also wanted to fight with the other party. Although he had used 100% of the power of the Dragon Sword Soul when facing the first slash. However, that was not his final battle strength. He still had a trump card. 100% of the power was not the final strength of the Dragon Sword Soul. With Lin Xian's current strength, he could unleash 120% of the Dragon Sword Soul's power. Apart from that, when he summoned the Dragon Sword Soul, its attack power was even more terrifying. Therefore, he was confident that he could fight with the Golden Lion King. However, it was a pity that the two of them did not fight in the first round. Lin Xian fought with another cultivator next. His opponent immediately admitted defeat. The Golden Lion King also defeated his opponents a few times. However, he was unable to fight with Lin Xian in the end. In the end, other than Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King, they won all 5 battles and obtained 5 Jade Talisman Emperor tokens. The others had more or less suffered defeat. However, overall, the first prince was ranked first. He obtained 22 Jade Talisman Emperor tokens. In second place was the 8th prince. He obtained 19 Jade Buddha King tokens. The third prince obtained 18 Jade Buddha King tokens. After that, the 4th prince, who had Sword 13, obtained 15 Jade talisman emperor tokens. The 15th prince and the 9th prince were ranked 5th and 6th, respectively. They obtained 12 Jade Buddha King tokens and 10 Jade Talisman Emperor tokens. The first round also came to an end. Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King did not fight in the end. It was disappointing. However, the previous battles had made them very excited. Thinking about it now, they were still trembling with excitement. Moreover, they knew that this was only the first round. Apart from that, there was still the second round. The competition in the second round would be even more intense. Moreover, it would not be a one-on-one battle. It would depend on the combined strength of the princes. At that time, there would definitely be an earth-shattering battle. Moreover, they believed that in the second round, Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King would definitely fight, because now the 8th prince, who was ranked 2nd, and the 1st prince, who was ranked 1st, would definitely be incompatible. Brother Lin, this is great. I did not expect you to be so strong. The 8th prince was also very satisfied with the 2nd place. Then he looked at Lin Xian, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the others and said, "Everyone, you have worked hard. Quickly recover your strength. I have provided all kinds of heavenly treasures for everyone. If you have any special needs, feel free to tell me. As long as I can get it, I will not be stingy." On the other side, the 1st prince was also very satisfied. Although he had lost by Zijing, with the addition of the Golden Lion King, he still maintained his 1st place. Moreover, he believed that he would have a greater advantage in the second round. Therefore, he was not nervous at all. On the other hand, the 3rd prince was gnashing his teeth. To be honest, he was too surprised. Chapter 2072. Because, in his opinion, even if he couldn't get 1st place, he would definitely be 2nd place. He didn't expect that the 2nd place would be snatched away by the 8th prince, and he was only 3rd. Not only that, his number 1 general, the 1st slash, was also defeated. Damn it, I can't let that brat continue to be arrogant. The 3rd prince gritted his teeth. In the 2nd stage, I'll go all out to kill that brat and severely injure him first. I don't believe that old 8 and that brat called Lin Xian can be so arrogant. The 2nd stage would begin 3 days later. Therefore, everyone came out of the special space and returned to their own palaces to rest. As for the princes, they were making plans. They must get rid of that Lin Xian first. The 3rd prince gritted his teeth. The 1st prince also made the same plan. As for the other princes, they said in a deep voice, "We must be careful of Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King." In the 1st stage, it was best for everyone to act as a group and not be alone, especially not facing Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King alone. Plans appeared one after another. Most of them were guarding against Lin Xian and the Golden Lion King. There was no other way. These two were the ones who won the 1st stage. Their strength was terrifying. No matter who it was, they wouldn't have any chance of winning if they fought alone. To deal with such peerless geniuses, they must work together to kill them. The 8th prince also said that our main enemies are the 1st prince and the 3rd prince. In addition, we have to be careful of that sword 13. We should also act as a group and not be alone. Oh right, Brother Lin, if you were to face the Golden Lion King, how confident are you? Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other geniuses all looked over. Lin Xian thought for a while and said, 50-50. He didn't know the specifics. After all, the other party should be hiding a lot of strength and ultimate moves. Hearing this, Lu Fei, Duan Qingqing, and the other geniuses' mouths twitched. Even the 8th prince's eyelids were twitching. Because previously, during the 1st slash, Lin Xian said 50-50. Now that he was facing the stronger Golden Lion King, it was still 50-50? This made them very surprised. They even suspected that Lin Xian was still holding back. They had guessed correctly. Lin Xian had indeed held back his strength. He still had 2 powerful trump cards that he had yet to use, especially if he used the great dragon sword soul. His battle prowess would increase in all aspects. Of course, Lin Xian did not let his guard down. He knew that, as a genius of the war race, the Golden Lion King must be extremely terrifying. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. On this day, the second trial was finally ushered in. The second stage was not in the Tai dynasty, but in a special space domain. This domain was very extraordinary. It was different from the first stage's battle space. The second stage was in a space that had been passed down from the Tai dynasty since ancient times. It could be said to be a secret realm. The crown prince election had always been held in this mystic realm. As for the second stage, each prince brought a different group of people. In the first stage, each prince could bring 5 young geniuses with him. As for the second stage, the older generation was allowed to participate. However, all participants had to be below the 8-star king realm. Not only that, but each prince could also bring a different number of people. The first prince had the most people. The first prince could bring 15 people. The second prince, the 8th prince, could bring 14 people. The third prince could bring 13 people. The fourth prince could bring 12 people. The fifth prince, the 15th prince, could bring 11 people. In addition, all the other princes could only bring 10 people. Although the difference in numbers was not big, at most it was only 5 people. However, this time, the people they brought were definitely peerless geniuses and top-notch experts. One expert was enough to influence the entire lineup. As for how the game was going to be played, it would depend on the princes. Soon, all the princes brought their peerless experts to the Grand Imperial Palace. This was the center of the imperial city, and it was the place with the strongest dragon chi in the entire Tai dynasty. Here, Lin Xian could feel the powerful dragon chi under his feet. It was as if a true dragon was lying below. In front of him, there was a middle-aged man who looked very valiant. He was wearing a golden dragon robe with 9 golden dragons embroidered on it. He wore a crown on his head, and his face was intimidating. The place where he stood was surrounded by the shadows of dragons. He was the current emperor of the Tai dynasty. Beside him stood a woman wearing a phoenix crown and a phoenix robe. She looked very noble, and her phoenix eyes looked down on the common people. She was the empress of the Tai royal sheath, the mother of the first prince. Behind the 2 of them stood the elders of the royal family. Although they were old, their eyes were shining with rich power. Then these elders stood in 8 directions, and their palms were also covered with dragon seals. Power surged out of their bodies, and they flew into the ground. Soon, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered, and the shadows of dragons appeared. They even let out a low dragon roar. At this moment, the emperor in front of them also took a step forward. Then he pressed his palm forward. On his golden robe, 9 golden dragons seemed to come alive. They flew into the sky and circled each other, forming a huge dragon diagram that covered the sky. Crack! Crack! Boom! 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 The ground trembled, and streams of dragon chi soared into the sky. There were a total of 81 streams of dragon chi in the surroundings. Lin Xian realized that there were very complicated runes under their feet. Each of them was a dragon pattern, and there was a shadow of a dragon. These dragon runes covered the entire ground. Then the emperor in front of them said in a deep voice, "Now the second test begins." As his voice fell, the dragon patterns on the ground flickered more and more. Then the 81 streams of dragon chi intertwined and surrounded everyone. Then they tore through the void and disappeared. Buzz! When Lin Xian, the 8th prince, and the others appeared again, they realized that they were surrounded by mountains and a vast primeval forest. Roars could be heard from afar, bringing with them a barbaric aura and a terrifying demonic aura. Is this where the second test will be? As soon as Lin Xian appeared, he activated the great dragon sword soul, and he immediately regained his clarity. Then he looked around. The eighth prince and the other sky prides also began to circulate their spiritual energy to heal their bodies. This time, the eighth prince could bring 14 people. Other than himself, there was Lin Xian, Lu Fei, and Duan Qingqing. There was also a young man called Su Winshan. Other than them, the rest were middle-aged or older people. Taoist Master Long, who Lin Xian had met before, was also among them. These people's auras were very powerful, and they had different roles. There were many kings with powerful attacks, but there were also array masters and soul power experts. There were even beast tamers. It could be said that they were well equipped. It wasn't just the eighth prince's side. The other princes also had similar arrangements. They were all trying their best to perfect their equipment. This was because the second test would last for a long time, a full month. During this month, anything could happen. Chapter 2073. The second stage lasted for a very long time, a full month. During this month, anything could happen. Moreover, there were many powerful monster kings in this space. If they could be tamed, they could also use them for their own purposes. In that case, the benefits would be huge. Moreover, it could give others a surprise attack. Apart from that, there were also ancient cities, ancient ruins, and even cemeteries and caves left behind by powerful cultivators. Those places contained a large number of restrictions and were very dangerous. However, if they could break them and obtain the treasures inside, they might be able to improve. They might even be able to turn defeat into victory. These people came in to crazily fight for the jade tokens in the hands of the other princes and explore these ancient ruins. The eighth prince looked around and said, "How about this? This space is very big and we have many people. I think we can divide into 3 teams. I'll lead one team, Priest Long will lead one team, and Brother Lin will lead one team." 14 people, including the eighth prince, made a total of 15 people. They were divided into 3 teams of 5 people each. Hearing that the eighth prince and Priest Long would each lead a team, the older generation and peerless geniuses nodded slightly. However, when they heard that Lin Xian would lead a team, they frowned slightly. That was because Lin Xian was a young man. Moreover, he was only a 6-star king and not a mighty figure. Therefore, they were a little confused about this suggestion. The eighth prince smiled and said, "Everyone, don't worry. Brother Lin's strength is far beyond your imagination." In the first stage, he won all 5 battles. He even won against a peerless swordsman like the First Blade. Therefore, he was definitely capable of leading a team. Hearing this, those who had not watched the first round of the competition sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, they started to fight Lin Xian again. "All right, let's divide it like this," Priest Long also said. Among them, Duan Qingqing followed the eighth prince and 3 other older generation figures. On Priest Long's side, there were Lu Fei, the young man named Su Winshan, and 2 other experts. On Lin Xian's side, other than himself who was young, the others were all older generation figures. To be honest, although Lin Xian was powerful, being led by such a young man still made the older generation unhappy. But since the eighth prince said so, they couldn't resist. "Since the team is already very good, let's split up. By the way, Brother Lin, here are 3 pieces of the Jade Buddha King medallion. You can use them to communicate with us from afar." The eighth prince gave Lin Xian 3 Jade Buddha King tablets. Among them, the eighth prince took 6, while Taoist Long took 5. With these jade talismans, they were able to establish a weak connection. At the very least, he knew the general direction of the other party. However, they were unable to sense any specific information. "How about this? Let's set the deadline as 5 days. After 5 days, we'll meet here and see how much everyone has gained." "Good." Lin Xian nodded, and so did Taoist Long. Then, the three teams quickly ran in three different directions. Although they were moving quickly, they had already prepared some things before they entered, including the map in each of their hands. The map marked out the dangerous areas, the monster hordes, and the ancient ruins. It could be said that other than the areas that they had never been to, the other areas had already been mapped out by these people. Moreover, these people also had a small bell that could transmit signals. But it could only transmit signals 3 times before it had to be refined again. Lin Xian opened the map and looked in a direction. Then he said, "Let's take a look at this area first." The other older generation people took a look and frowned slightly. There were groups of demonic beasts roaming about in this area. "Are you sure there's no danger here?" "Yes, kid, although you're powerful and are valued by the 8th prince, I'm afraid you're still lacking in experience. I think we should listen to what the older generation has to say." Just then, a middle-aged man said in a deep voice, "There's no need." However, Lin Xian shook his head and kept the map. "Since the 8th prince has handed the team to me, I have the right to make the decision. I hope you can cooperate with me." As he spoke, he took the lead. His figure flashed, and his entire person flew out. "Sigh, he's too young. He doesn't know how high the sky is." Just then, the middle-aged man shook his head. The other old man snorted coldly. "Let's wait and see. There'll be problems. The 8th prince has let a kid guide us. He's too naive." Another old man said, "It's fine. Anyway, there's only 5 days. I believe he'll have problems in these 5 days. When we go back, we'll give the 8th prince a suggestion and change the team leader." The few of them discussed for a while and then followed. However, they obviously didn't believe in Lin Xian. Lin Xian's team had 5 people, other than himself. There was a middle-aged man and a lady in red. Other than that, there was an old man in a black robe and an old man in a blue robe. These 4 people were all powerful beings, and they were all elites among the powerful beings. It could be said that he was extremely powerful and had incomparably rich combat experience. Therefore, they naturally looked down on people of the younger generation like Lin Xian. Lin Xian naturally knew what these people were thinking when they looked at him. However, he didn't care. The reason why he could lead these people was because of his true strength. Therefore, he believed that it wouldn't take long for these people to know why the 8th prince made him the leader. Therefore, in the next moment, he turned around, tapped his foot, and quickly flew out. The others could only shake their heads and sigh. They also flew out. This space was different from the outside. The spiritual energy was more abundant, but the gravity was heavier. In other words, everyone's original strength was suppressed here. They could only use about 80% of their original strength. However, this wasn't a big deal to them. This was because this space was open to everyone. If you're suppressed by 80%, so am I. Overall, everyone's strength was the same. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. This was because they couldn't keep up with Lin Xian's speed. Immediately, these experts of the older generation frowned. "Damn it, how could this be? How could this kid fly so fast? Could it be that he wasn't affected by the space's suppression?" To be honest, they were really surprised. Now, their speed was only 80% of their original speed. It could be said that they were much slower than before. However, Lin Xian's speed was so fast that it far surpassed them. They couldn't believe it. Chapter 2074. His speed was so fast that it far surpassed theirs. They couldn't believe it. Damn it, was this kid a king who specialized in speed? The black-robed elder frowned. The blue-robed elder snorted coldly. Was this kid specifically targeting them? Did he really think that he could make things difficult for them? How naive! Thinking of this, he snorted coldly. The spiritual power in his body erupted, forming a powerful airwave that accelerated his speed again. Seeing this, the other 3 also circulated their power and sped up to catch up. To be honest, these people were wrong. Lin Xian didn't mean to make things difficult for these people. He was just flying at his previous speed. Although the space here was somewhat suppressive on him. For some reason, when he used the great dragon sword soul, the suppression disappeared. In other words, to Lin Xian there was almost no difference between the inside and outside. Lin Xian was very surprised, but he knew that the great dragon sword soul was extremely mysterious. It must have played a role in offsetting the suppression. Therefore, his speed was normal for the outside world. The speed of the others was suppressed to 80%. In comparison, he naturally flew faster than the others. Boom, boom, boom. Therefore, when he heard the sound of the air exploding behind him, Lin Xian also turned his head and immediately frowned. In the next moment, he understood. It seemed that he was focused on flying and forgot that these people were suppressed. Therefore, in the next moment, he also slowed down. In fact, his body swayed and flew down. Why did he suddenly land? When the older generation figures saw this scene, they frowned again. The blue-robed elder snorted coldly. Let's go down and see what he's up to. The four of them also landed. Lin Xian looked at them and said, "This space is very strange." This space was somewhat special, and it formed a certain restriction on kings. Moreover, we have been traveling for such a long time. If we encounter an enemy, we won't be able to fight them in peak condition. Therefore, I think it's better to capture a few flying beasts and let them carry us while we sit on them. This way, we can travel quickly and maintain our peak physical strength. This is a good idea. The woman in red nodded her head after hearing that. However, the other black-robed old man said, "But we are all attack-type kings. None of us are beast tamers." "That's right," the blue-robed old man also said. Moreover, the demonic beasts here had been neglected for a long time. They were very ferocious. It was impossible for them to submit to humans. These people completely disagreed with Lin Xian's suggestion. He even felt that it was too childish to think of such a method. However, Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I can tame these demonic beasts." "What? You can?" Hearing this, the few of them were stunned. They hadn't seen Lin Xian's performance in the first round with their own eyes, so they didn't know how strong Lin Xian was. They only judged based on the final rankings. However, they knew that Lin Xian was a swordsman. His swordsmanship was strong, but in terms of taming demonic beasts, it was not certain. Therefore, the four of them obviously didn't believe him. Lin Xian ignored the four of them. He circulated his soul power and searched the surrounding dozens of miles. Soon, a smile appeared on his face. He found that there were a few flying demonic beasts in front of him. In the next moment, he turned into a bolt of lightning and flew over at high speed. This kid can't be thinking of taming demonic beasts, right? The middle-aged man frowned slightly. The blue-robed old man snorted coldly. What a joke. He was strong, but only among the younger generation. Moreover, he could kill demonic beasts, but taming demonic beasts wasn't something an ordinary person could do. It required a strong soul power and special techniques. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so few beast tamers. However, the woman in red looked into the distance. "Let's go and take a look." "It's futile to go there." The black-robed old man shook his head unmoved. They didn't think that Lin Xian could succeed. However, after about half an hour, the sound of something breaking through the air came from the distance. The few of them looked up and were stunned. Their eyes widened as if they had seen a ghost. In the sky ahead, Lin Xian was sitting on a demonic crane, flying quickly. There were two other demonic cranes flying on both sides. They were flying in the same pattern. The demonic aura on their bodies was soaring to the sky, bringing with it a powerful storm that tore through the void. They were shocked and couldn't believe it. Could it be that he really succeeded? Just as they were in a daze, Lin Xian landed slowly with the three demonic cranes. The powerful storm blew the clothes of the four people. Suddenly they were awakened. Then the middle-aged man asked, Young friend Lin, did you really tame them? No way, how did you do it? The woman in red was also shocked, and the two old men behind her twitched their mouths. Previously, they thought that it was impossible for him to succeed, but now it seemed that he really did it. It surprised them. Could it be that he's really a beast tamer? Thinking of this, the two old men's expressions became extremely solemn. They realized that they had underestimated this kid who was a few thousand years younger than them. At this moment, Lin Xian opened the map, pointed at it, and said, "We're in Tianfeng Forest, and there are two ancient ruins nearby. How about this? We'll split into two groups and explore these two ancient ruins. Then we'll meet here." What? Split up? Hearing this, the middle-aged woman was stunned. What if we meet enemies after splitting up? The middle-aged man also asked. Indeed, it was very common to see a team of 5 people. If they split up into 2 or 3 people, they wouldn't be able to escape at all. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, it shouldn't be a problem with 2 seniors together. Moreover, we have these tamed demonic beasts with us. Their combat power is not bad, and their flying ability is very strong. Even if they can't win, they can run away. How about this? I'll trouble you 2 seniors to explore the one on the right. I'll lead the other 2 to explore the one on the left." Lin Xian also realized that the 2 old men didn't seem to trust him, so he couldn't be bothered with them. He let the 2 of them explore alone, while he led the other 2 to the other side. All right. The 2 old men looked at each other and nodded in agreement. To be honest, they made a mistake in their judgment. Now that their faces were red, it would be very awkward for them to stay. Perhaps later on, this brat would take out some other ability to slap their faces. Slap. It was better to stay away from him now. Otherwise, if they were provoked again, their old hearts wouldn't be able to take it. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.